Chapter 1408. Putting aside the residents of Nine Supremes' disciples' intention to target the Qian family, the residents of Nine Supremes had a few more days of free time. As the leader of the residents of Nine Supremes, Yunyang naturally had to accompany the guests of the highest rank. However, he had only accompanied Dongfang Haoran and the others for half a morning on the first day, before he fled as if his boat was on fire. There was no other reason other than that these old fellows were too ruthless. On the first night, Shiman Fafu, who was supposed to keep the secret to himself, had for some reason told Dongfang Haoran and Beigong Liuli about Yin Yang's brilliant idea, like he was presenting a treasure. The two palace lords' eyes turned green at once. How could they not be tempted? The scarcity of offspring had always been the common sorrow of strong cultivators. There were few exceptions. As long as a martial artist had cultivated to the level of a mortal mystic, he would inevitably step into the stage of refining essence into qi. The essence was not enough for his own use, so there was no way he could use it elsewhere. It was also because of this that it was difficult to have children. As one cultivated to the level of saint, one was even more particular about having a flawless physical body, not allowing any leakage of one's spiritual energy. The mystical qi in one's body would circulate naturally, turning the innate qi of essence into one's own spiritual energy. Naturally, it was even more impossible for one to have children. In such a situation, one had to at least break through the level of saint and reach the level of starry sky to be able to control one's own spiritual qi as easily as one's own arm. This was the so-called 100% accuracy. However, when one had reached that level, not many would care about the matter of male and female children. Dongfang Haoran and the other old fellows were still far from that level. It was said that people of different generations were related to each other, but this saying only applied to ordinary families. To the pinnacle experts of this world, who lived for tens of thousands of years, how many children and grandchildren did they have? Not to mention grandchildren. Even if they had grandchildren 100 generations away, they would still have a big family. Why would they need to kiss? Therefore, the ones that parents were truly worried about were their own children. The reason why Dongfang Xingchen, Shimen Huanyu, and the rest of them were pampered to the point of being out of control and doing things without the slightest scruple was because, when they were already peak experts, they would suddenly win the lottery due to being drunk, or for some other reason. Getting a son by accident was the main reason. However, Yun Yang's solution was to control the origin of life force, which had always been an accident and a possibility, and turn it into a controllable action. I don't intend to force you. Just the same amount will do. Dongfang Haoran's hawk-like eyes stared at Yun Yang. Even that old thief Shiman Fengfu has 10. How can I, your older brother Dongfang, have less than 10? This old man also only needs 10. Beigong Liuli said fiercely. This old man is known for his fiendish ways. This time, I'll go for the fiendish way. If I lose even half, I might have to fight you. All right. You're trying to kidnap me out of friendship and threaten me with force. I can't afford to offend you, so I'll just give in, all right? The two villains cornered Yin Yang in a corner. No matter how wise Yin Yang was, he was helpless against these two men who had their own opinions and would not be swayed by external factors. Sighing helplessly, he could only grit his teeth and give them 10 strips each. With the treasures in their hands, the two palace lords left in satisfaction. They abandoned a certain someone like an old shoe, as if they were throwing them away after using them. Nighttime. Midnight. Dongfang Haoran quietly entered Yun Yang's room. Quickly, give me 10 more strips. What? Yun Yang's fox face grew long as his eyes widened in utter disbelief. What kind of relationship do I have with you, old brother? How can I be treated the same as these two? Dongfang Haoran's words were righteous. It was as if it was not enough to show his status without additional treatment. Yin Yang argued with reason and tried his best with his tongue. However, Dongfang Haoran saw that he could not win with words, so he directly threatened him with force. Sect leader Yin, who was easily captured, lowered his head and agreed to the humiliating terms. Giving up another 10 strips, Dongfang Haoran left in satisfaction. Yin Yang cursed for a long time to vent his anger. Damn old thing. I'm lucky that my wife isn't by my side, and that I can't eat them now. If they were, if this old thing barged in, wouldn't it be? Yin Yang cursed, but he was helpless. This was the most direct portrayal of the situation being stronger than the person, but one's strength was inferior. The next day, Yin Yang came to the small yard where Bai Bingxian stayed. Compared to other places, this place was much livelier. The 5 white geese were hopping around unusually lively. The big black bear from the beast trainer sect was lying lazily under a big tree, its body flickering and emitting a strange light. Its form was that of a big black bear for a moment, then a brawny man for a moment. It kept changing back and forth. Its 2 large eyes were filled with innocence and depression. What's wrong with him? Yin Yang asked curiously. I don't know how he cultivated the shape-shifting technique. He's never been able to achieve it. He's tried for a long time, but he's still in a deadlock between the 2 forms. He can't maintain a fixed form, and can only maintain the form of a black bear. Bai Bingxian frowned. He's already a 3rd-level Supreme Saint, but still can't shapeshift completely. How embarrassing. Yin Yang was stunned when he heard Bai Bingxian's explanation. He had never heard of such a thing. When it came to the shape-shifting of mystical beasts, Yin Yang did have the right to speak. The days he had stayed in Tianfa Holy Land were not for nothing. The mystical beasts in Tianfa Holy Land could try shapeshifting once they reached the level of Supreme. Venerable and Saint were even in their human form. If one did not know them well, one would not be able to tell that something was amiss. Why was this person from the residence of 9 Supremes still unable to shapeshift completely even though he had already reached the level of Supreme? What was going on? Ignoring the 5 white geese that were jumping around him, Yin Yang sent Whitey 2 to find the Beast Kings. Not long after, Bear King arrived, and was shocked when he saw the state of the black bear. A black bear that could not shapeshift even after reaching the level of Supreme Saint was unheard of, even in Tianfa Holy Land. Bear King approached the black bear and touched it twice, thinking for a long time. After a while he scratched his head and said in a seemingly enlightened manner, I know where this fellow's problem lies. His cultivation method is fundamentally wrong. Of course, he can't shapeshift completely. The black bear's eyes widened in confusion as he casually recounted his origins. Beast Trainer Sect? Bear King was furious. You've been framed by that sect. One of your beast souls has been destroyed. Of course, you can't shapeshift successfully. Yin Yang was puzzled and asked hurriedly. When Beast Trainer Sect domesticates mystical beasts, they have to eliminate the beast's wild nature to prevent it from devouring its master. Therefore, at the beginning of taming the beast, they use a unique mystic art to extract a part of the target beast's soul and refine it. Only then can the target beast be obedient. However, his situation is different. The person who extracted his soul and refined it has long passed away. He said that the lost part of his soul is destined to never be found. He has no hope of shapeshifting. Bear King's face was full of sorrow and resentment. Mystical beasts had been guarding the holy land of Tianfa for countless years, constantly fighting against the demon race and guarding the door for the bound of universe humans. However, on the other side of the bound of universe, there were countless humans who kept mystical beasts as pets, tools of war, slaves, or mounts. When had there ever been true fairness in this world? Hearing Bear King's explanation and his assertion that he had no hope of shape-shifting in this lifetime, the black bear looked hopeless. Ever since he came to the residence of 9 Supremes, his cultivation base had been improving by leaps and bounds. The black bear was naturally elated. However, no matter how much his cultivation base had broken through and reached an unusually high level, he had never been able to shapeshift. This had long puzzled him. Only now did he finally understand. Yin Yang frowned and asked, Is there really no other way? Bear King sighed. Unless he can break through to the saint level. When he reaches the saint level, he can naturally reshape his soul. At that time, he can shapeshift however he wants without any constraints. However, his soul is incomplete, so the difficulty of breaking through to the saint level is many times more difficult than ordinary people. The prospects are not optimistic. As soon as he said this, the despair on the black bear's face intensified, almost as if he had nothing left to live for. Yin Yang, on the other hand, was relieved. He laughed and said, "The residence of 9 Supremes does not lack spiritual chi and treasures of heaven and earth. Old Black, just concentrate on your cultivation. No matter what you lack in terms of cultivation resources, I'll make up for it. Cultivating to the saint level may not be an unreachable thing. Don't worry, I have full confidence in making you a saint." "Are you serious?" Not only the black bear, but even Bear King's eyes were shining. Yin Yang laughed. "Facts speak louder than words. Haven't you all seen the current situation of the residents of 9 Supremes? Especially me. Do you only care about whether my cultivation speed is fast or not?" After saying this, he did not speak anymore, only letting the black bear cultivate in peace and work hard. However, the symbolic meaning of this sentence was enough. The cultivation atmosphere of the residents of 9 Supremes might not be unique in this world, but it was at least the best. Furthermore, how long had it been since Yin Yang entered the Tao? At the very most, it had only been a dozen to 20 years. If he could get Yin Yang's guidance, his future would not only be promising, it would be extremely promising and limitless. The black bear cheered, his previous dejected look vanishing as he went back to his cave to cultivate like a gust of wind. Bear King, on the other hand, followed behind Yin Yang with eyes full of admiration, flashing a flattering smile from time to time. He had personally taken Brother Yun's medicine before. It was truly miraculous. "We're on the same side. There's no need to be polite. If there's any good medicine, I'll send it to you specially, without a second word." Patting Bear King's shoulder and making a promise, Bear King left in satisfaction. "I've gained a lot from my trip to the demon race this time. Not only did I see His Majesty the Nine Lives Cat, but I also helped him escape." Only Yin Yang and Bai Bingshuan's clansmen were left. Yin Yang did not keep them in suspense anymore, and went straight to the point. When Bai Bingxian and her clansmen heard such great news, they sat up straight at once, the light in their eyes startling Yin Yang. Facing such longing gazes, Yin Yang quickly recounted the whole process in detail. When she heard that not only had the 9 Lives Cat escaped, but he had also begun to regroup with the help of Cat Lady and the others, preparing to counterattack the demon court, Bai Bingxian was already sobbing. "His Majesty the 9 Lives Cat has become my sworn brother, so you can stay here with peace of mind in the future. One day, when we go back and reunite, the 9 Lives Cat clan will be glorious again." Yin Yang sighed softly. That was what he said. However, if the 9 Lives Cat failed to counterattack the demon court, the best outcome for Bai Bingxian and the others was to stay in the residence of 9 Supremes. Yin Yang took out the jade pendant of the 9 Lives Cat ancestor and let Bai Bingxian and the others worship it. Then, he took out the secret cultivation method of the cat clan that the 9 Lives Cat had asked him to bring and handed it to Bai Bingxian. Yin Yang then got up and left. However, the eyes of Bai Bingxian and the others behind him were bright. After Yin Yang left, all the cats did not even close their eyes for a few days. The unprecedented excitement that felt like they were about to explode made them sleepless all night. Due to the change, the Whiteys also gained some luck. They followed Bai Bingxian to cultivate the top-notch secret method of the cat clan. Naturally, their abilities grew rapidly day by day. Most of the time, they specialized in their respective professions. Only then could their progress be unstoppable and unstoppable. Other than the 5 Whiteys, Gigi was also released by Yin Yang. This ugly bird that was rarely seen in history was still staring at a scaly head. More than half of the feathers on its body had grown out, but its head was still bald. There were only 3 hairs on the top of its head that glowed like flames. It was the only bright spot on its image. However, Gigi's bright spot was not just this. Other than moving faster than before, coming and going like lightning, it was almost traceless and traceless. It also had the superior ability to shatter the void and travel thousands of miles in an instant. With this astonishing speed, Gigi had the absolute upper hand in the battle against the Whiteys. Even when a few Whiteys joined forces to attack it, it was still not at a disadvantage. This was because the Whiteys had received systematic learning, and their abilities had increased greatly. In addition, there was the innate tacit understanding of their bloodline. If Gigi could make up for its lack of combat experience, The attacking power it could unleash would be difficult for the whiteys to resist even if they joined forces. When it was cornered, it could spit a ball of flame from its mouth and burn everything, including heaven and earth. In Yin Yang's opinion, Gigi's combat power was top-notch even in the entire bound of universe. The whiteys' individual abilities were at least at the pinnacle of Supreme Saint. The fact that Gigi could fight them alone and not be at a disadvantage was already a clear indication of its ability. In addition, Gigi's appearance meant that it was not fully developed yet. This knowledge made Yin Yang feel that this little fellow was extraordinary. Whether it was its origin, ability, foundation, or potential, it was extraordinary. In view of this, it was better to let this little fellow experience more battles, no matter how difficult it was to improve, by staying in the deific consciousness space. Otherwise, Gigi, who lacked combat power, would inevitably be at a disadvantage in a real battle. Combat power did not equate to actual combat results. This had been proven in countless wars. However, Gigi's appearance had thrown the residents of 9 Supremes into chaos. Chapter 1409. First of all, Gigi was just too ugly. It was so ugly that it could shock the world. The feathers on its body were not bad, but the moment everyone looked at it, all they saw was its bald head and neck. Nothing else. Secondly, Gigi was not only ugly, it was arrogant. Other than Yin Yang, its eyes were slanted at everyone it looked at, its face full of disdain. Not only humans, but other mystical beasts were not even worthy of its attention. Only the few whiteys could catch its attention. That was because they had been playmates since they were young. Otherwise, even the whiteys would not be able to maintain their pride. Its arrogant aura was clearly saying, "You lot think you're worthy of playing with me? Who am I? What are you lot?" How could such an attitude, coupled with its appearance, not be detestable? Moreover, this fellow had relied on the speed of his movement skill to scurry everywhere, fully aware that the residence of 9 Supremes was his own backyard. The reason why the residence of 9 Supremes was said to be its backyard was because, in Yin Yang's opinion, this fellow had treated the entire heaven and earth as its private property. The residence of 9 Supremes was its most private property, so it cherished it and would not destroy it. Noon. The Beast Kings of Tianfe Holy Land were having their meal. Compared to other places, the amount of food these fellows ate could only be described as terrifying. For example, a person would be full after eating 2 steamed buns. However, these fellows ate 20 each, and it was only an appetizer. Therefore, the food provided to them was not only huge, but the taste was exceptionally rich. With their status as Beast Kings, they never lacked food. However, the food provided by the residents of 9 Supremes this time was not only filled with spiritual ingredients, but was also meticulously prepared. Naturally, they were even more elated, enjoying themselves so much that they did not want to go home. However, following the sound of rushing wind, an unbelievably ugly bird hurriedly flew in and landed on the table with an air of arrogance. It seemed to be pretending to be reserved as it walked a few steps on the food. Its neck tilted to the side and snatched a piece of snow spirit chicken from the Eagle King's mouth. It pecked at it with disdain and threw away the part that the Eagle King had bitten off. Then, it stretched its neck and swallowed the rest of the chicken. Then, in the blink of an eye, he opened his mouth and spat out a huge pile of chicken bones. There wasn't even a shred of meat left on them. After that, he looked at the bones with a look of disdain. He looked at the Eagle King with an extremely disdainful gaze, as if to say, "There are so many bones, and you still want to eat them? How tasteless." All the Beast Kings at the scene were stunned by this sudden turn of events. Looking at this uninvited bird, he was dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. "Damn it! Even if we eat fish, we can't eat so fast, can we? What kind of bird is this?" Just from the way he ate, he was already stronger than many people, able to do what others couldn't. Gigi. Gigi stared at the Eagle King with its round eyes, pointing at the basin full of snow spirit chickens with its claws. "Can't you have some eyesight? Hurry up and bring this daddy another one." Then, it pointed at the bones and said, "While you're at it, remove all the bones for this daddy." The Eagle King stared at this fellow for a long time, and suddenly felt a wave of anger. Damn it, this daddy here is the king of the eagles, who doesn't respect me 30% and fear me 70%. Why did a bald bird suddenly appear and actually want this daddy to serve him chicken? Does he think this king is a slave? He opened his hand and grabbed towards the eagle king as he scolded. Where did this stupid bird come from? Gigi was enraged, and with a twist of its neck, its beak had already landed on the eagle king's hand. With a pu sound, a transparent bloody hole appeared in front of its eyes and fresh blood flowed out. The eagle king let out a low grunt. This sudden turn of events was far beyond the expectations of all the beast kings present, causing them to be dumbfounded. In the beginning, everyone had planned to watch the show. None of these beast kings had given their food away for free, so they had instantly guessed that this slow bird was most likely a certain bird from the residence of 9 Supremes. They were all gloating to see how the Eagle King was going to deal with this, but they did not really take this bird seriously. Even when they saw the bird's quick reflexes, they did not think much of it. After all, in the face of an absolute difference in strength, even if the bird reacted in time, the so-called counterattack was nothing more than an ant trying to shake a tree. However, who could actually touch it? Instead, it was the Eagle King who had suffered a great loss. Was this an ant trying to shake a tree? What level was the Eagle King's cultivation base? Even if there was a possibility of being caught off guard, with the Eagle King's strength, even if he did not circulate his cultivation, and just lay there, allowing a few Saint Emperors and beginner Saint Venerables to attack him as they pleased, even with the help of divine weapons, they might not be able to cause any damage. But it was such a strong physique that with a turn of its head and a peck from this bird, the bird had actually pecked through the Eagle King's hand. If you had not seen it with your own eyes, would you have believed it? What was this bird's beak made of? How could it be so domineering? The Eagle King's heart was in agony as he flew into a rage. His other hand channeled his cultivation base and clawed downwards. The sound of wind and thunder reverberated in the air. Its aura terrifying. However, Gigi wasn't afraid in the slightest. With a shrill cry, it flapped its wings, turned its head, and pecked at the Eagle King's hand. Right at the instant the Eagle King was about to grab it, Gigi casually swung its sharp beak, tore through space, and then vanished without a trace. All that was left in the air was a mocking cry. Gigi. There was a bloody hole in each of the Eagle King's hands. Blood dripped everywhere. All the Beast Kings looked at each other, their hearts filled with shock and confusion. Well, what kind of bird was this? Was it not too impressive? Even if the Eagle King had been careless the first time, and did not use much strength, it had used almost all of its strength the second time. How could it still be pecked through like that? Gigi returned to Yun Yang's room familiarly after making a big round. It stood on Yun Yang's shoulder, and tidied its feathers with its beak. It looked as if nothing had happened. It had a bald head and a bald neck, its large eyes filled with arrogance. It was extremely ugly. What bird is this? Lingxi frowned and said in disdain. Why is it so ugly? Gigi. Gigi cried angrily. How dare you call me ugly? With a swoosh, Gigi dashed out, charging out of inertia. Even if you're my master's wife, I have to teach you a lesson. No. Yun Yang only managed to shout once before he heard Lingxi cry out in shock. Then the red light that Yun Yang was exceptionally familiar with flashed. With a shriek, Lingxi bounced back at a speed that was faster than the speed at which she had charged out. It landed in front of Yun Yang's chest with a loud thud. Then, it slid off Yun Yang like a pile of mud, its eyes lifeless as it cried out. Gigi. There was no more movement after that. The creature had been domineering for the entire morning, and had finally met its nemesis. It was a direct collision. Yun Yang, who was affected by the force as if he had been struck by a powerful blow, felt his vision darken as his blood and chi churned. He mustered the endless divine art to calm the impact. After a while, he focused his gaze and saw that at least 80 to 90% of Gigi's bones were broken. Even its neck was broken. It looked like it was going to die soon. He could not help but chuckle humorlessly. You really don't have eyes. How dare you provoke just about anyone? You've hit the wall now. I really owe you all. Despite his words, he was in a hurry to save Gigi. Although Gigi was definitely of extraordinary birth, and had great potential, It depended on who it was compared to. Going head-on against Ji Lingxi's protective spiritual light was like throwing an egg against a rock, seeking its own death. Ji Lingxi looked at Gigi in shock. What bird is this? So, she wanted to say, how can it be so fast? She wanted to say, so strong. Of course it was strong. Up until now, no one had survived Ji Lingxi's protective divine light except for Yun Yang. There was no exception, even for Saint Lords. Now that this little bird had attacked at such a high speed, it had suffered the most direct counterattack. Yet it had not perished on the spot. This was already a great opportunity. Perhaps it was because the bird's attack was too fast, but Ji Lingxi could still feel the pain despite the protective divine light's immediate counterattack. In the past, no matter who attacked it, it did not feel anything with the protection of the divine light. This rule had been broken by a little bird. Besides, it was obvious that the bird had not used its full strength. This was the main reason it had not died from the counterattack. It was obvious that it only wanted to teach it a lesson. What the F***ck was this? Yin Yang chuckled bitterly as he healed Gigi. You've seen this fellow before. It's Xiao Qiu, the bird I took in the lower realm. Ji Lingxi was hit with a sudden realization. An ugly bird that's still a fledgling. Isn't it too ugly? Gigi, who was on the ground, cried weakly. It had just been saved by Yin Yang's infusion of spiritual energy, and now it was being called ugly. Gigi was even angrier. I hate it when people call me ugly. How am I ugly? I'm the most handsome. All right. You're only a bird. Where did your pride come from? It's fine to show off in front of others, but forget about it in front of my wife. You could easily lose your life. No, your bird's life. Yin Yang pointed his finger at Gigi's head and scolded it helplessly. Gigi cried weakly and defiantly. However, its beady eyes that were looking at Ji Lingxi were already shining with fear. This human is too strong. I can't beat him. Even Yun Yang did not have such an understanding towards him. Now you know what's good, don't you? Let's see if you still dare to show off. Yin Yang chided jokingly. Ji Lingxi and Shangguan Lingxiu, on the other hand, were greatly interested in the bird as they gathered around it. What kind of bird is this? Ji Lingxi said in surprise. It's obviously not fully grown yet. But even if it's a phoenix, it might not be able to do this in its infancy. It's the first anomaly to withstand the counterattack of my divine light of defense, and come out unscathed so far. Shangguan Lingxiu nodded in agreement. It had only begun to grow feathers now. This was not even past the limit of its infancy, yet it already possessed such terrifying abilities. If he really grew up, he would definitely become a sage. Even, it was not impossible for him to reach the starry sky level. After all, the source of the divine light of defense was an unfathomable and immeasurable level. The two girls squatted in front of Gigi, glancing at it from top to bottom and left to right. The more they looked at it, the more they liked it. Let me tell you, these people in front of you are all on the same side. People you can't afford to offend. If you lay a hand on your own people in the future, it's not that I won't forgive you. It's that you're digging your own grave. Yin Yang warned sternly. Then, he used his mental energy to intimidate the bird. Yin Yang realized that the bird's wild nature had yet to be tamed. It was fortunate that it had attacked Ji Lingxi this time, and was repelled by the red light. What if it had attacked someone else? Wouldn't it have been killed on the spot? It would not do if he did not impose some rules on it. Gigi shrunk its neck in fear. Yin Yang reprimanded it harshly for half a quarter of an hour. Gigi lowered its head, flapped its wings, and lay on the ground with its neck tilted. It looked so miserable that it no longer dared to attack. Only then did Yin Yang stop. Stop pretending to be pitiful. If there's a next time, I'll break your wings and break your claws. I'll even pluck out the feathers on your head. Yin Yang was only halfway through his treatment when he started scolding the bird. Gigi looked extremely pathetic and pitiful. Ji Lingxi's heart softened as she said softly, I'll take care of it. Let it know some rules. Yin Yang thought about it and said, all right. He would not be at ease if he handed this bird over to someone else. Watching Ji Lingxi's outstretched hand, Gigi shrieked in terror. No, don't hand me over to this woman. It's too scary. Yin Yang ignored it, and watched as Ji Lingxi picked up the little fellow and brought him away. As soon as Gigi left, countless people rushed into Yun Yang's room. Dong Qitian, Shi Wuchen, the Beast Kings, and even Yun Xiuxin and other disciples, as well as a few temple masters, all rushed in. "Where's that despicable bird?" everyone shouted in unison, burning with rage. Yun Yang's eyes widened. What was going on? After asking around, he found out that this fellow had actually turned the residence of 9 Supremes upside down in the short 2 hours he had let it out. Luo Dajiang's treasured saber had a big hole pecked through it, and Yun Xiuxin and Cheng Jeje's skirts had a hole pecked through their butts. Now, the 2 female disciples were embarrassed, angry, and in pain, covering their butts in rage. Zhan Wufei's jade pendant had also been snatched away. Dong Qitian was cultivating at first. He had just taken out a mysterious ice-fire lotus and was about to swallow it to aid his cultivation when the fellow had snatched it away and eaten it. Infuriated, Dong Qitian gave chase at top speed. However, he was caught off guard by a certain bird's space-tearing ability. Not only did the bird manage to escape, it almost fell into the crack in the void. Shi Wuchen had taken out a pot of medicinal pills for his disciples, but before they could accept it, it had already been snatched away by a certain bird that had appeared out of nowhere. As for the Beast Kings, it was even more obvious. The Eagle King's bloodied hands were a clear indication of what had happened. For a moment, Yin Yang felt a headache coming on. Was this still a bird? It was clearly a troublemaker. Faced with the public's anger, Yin Yang showed a rare and shameful cowardice. He asked with a confused expression, "What bird? What are you talking about?" Zhan Wufei frowned. "Is that indescribably ugly bird not sect leader Yan's pet?" Yin Yang did not know whether to laugh or cry. "What are you talking about, Temple Master Zhan?" Yin Yang refused to admit it. It was better for him to feign ignorance and deal with the current situation first. In the end, the crowd could only disperse in confusion. Could it be that the bird was really not his pet? The Beast Kings were simple-minded, believing Yin Yang's denial. After all, Yin Yang held a special place in their hearts. They did not believe that he would fool them. In spite of this, Zhan Wufei and the rest were grumbling inwardly. As the saying goes, everything takes after its owner. The bird is like the person. That bird's behavior is extremely despicable and shameless. It's like Lord Supreme Cloud's twin. I don't believe that the bird has nothing to do with Yin Yang. There was nothing much to do today, so I was quietly drinking in a corner. But this bunch of bastards came looking for trouble. In a fit of rage, I carried a bottle of wine and went to 3 tables in a row. They were all drunk, but I didn't even bat an eyelid. If it wasn't for some bastard who insisted on drinking from my bottle, they wouldn't have realized that it was mineral water. I was beaten up, but it was worth it. Chapter 14:10. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, it was peaceful on the surface, but undercurrents were surging and brewing. However, Dongfang Haoran and the other 3, who were not bothered by anything, were living a carefree life. With their status, it was naturally difficult for them to gather together. Now in the residence of 9 Supremes, the 4 of them gathered together, drinking and chatting, expressing their happiness and worries. They drank for 3 days and 3 nights before their mood finally waned. In these short 3 days, the 4 of them felt as if they had finished talking about the things that they had been talking about for tens of thousands of years. They clearly had 1,000 words to say, but they could not say a single word. Even though they were still sitting together, they could only stare at each other. Most likely, they had nothing to say anymore. The feeling of being speechless was, of course, unpleasant, but the 4 holy sons of the Heaven Palace who came with them felt even more negative. It could be said that among the outsiders in the residence of 9 Supremes, the Qian family was the one who felt the most uncomfortable, followed by the 4 holy sons. These 4 people stayed in the residence of 9 Supremes. Of course, they were well treated, but they were extremely unhappy and uncomfortable, as if there was a knife hanging on their necks that could be chopped off at any time. Their palace lord was nearby, and it was the gathering of the 4 top experts in the world, but it still did not give them much sense of security. Lai Kuangfeng, who had never had nightmares, had actually dreamt of his own senior and junior brothers being brutally beaten to a pulp by Yun Yang. He was so frightened that he could not stop screaming in his dream. He was utterly humiliated. Fortunately, these 3 days had finally passed. The disciples of the residents of 9 Supremes began to send out notices one by one. They reached all the hall masters and divine lords. The main peak of the residents of 9 Supremes began to gather again. Those who attended this time were the top figures in the entire bound of Yellow Continent. Obviously, the residents of 9 Supremes had follow-up plans, and today was the day it would begin. When Qian Xingjin arrived, he first greeted the 4 rulers respectfully. Then, starting from Zhang Wufei, he greeted them one by one, lowering his attitude. Even when he was treated coldly, Qian Xingjin's attitude did not change at all, remaining peaceful and comfortable. This clan leader Qian, who had been living a smooth life for many days, was angered by someone one day, causing him to commit a huge mistake. The situation had changed drastically. However, after he realized the mistake he had made, he immediately adjusted his mentality, and in the shortest amount of time, he displayed astonishing action. He did his best, humbled himself, and even tried his best to make up for it with a humble attitude. Even Yin Yang was touched when he saw it. If it wasn't for Qian Duo, I probably wouldn't have had the intention to kill this family leader Qian. I might even have cooperated. Yin Yang sighed softly and told Ji Lingxi telepathically. Ji Lingxi nodded faintly. This person is very rare. Yin Yang nodded and said, this person's state of mind is exceptional. You must know that the Qian family is one of the top 3 aristocratic families in the world, the possessor of the golden celestial luck banner. Their position is not below the other halls. After he became the clan leader, everything went smoothly for him. His position was high and powerful, and he looked down on the world. It goes without saying. It's also because of this superior mentality that he was angered by your shallow tricks and made the mistake. However, when he calmed down and regained his clarity of mind, he immediately abandoned his superior mentality and placed himself in the mud. He used all the ways he could to beg for the understanding of all parties. He knew that if these people held grudges, he would never be able to return to his original superior position. Just from this magnanimity and state of mind, he can already be considered a top-notch talent. Yun Yang watched as Qian Xingjin mingled with the hall masters and divine lords, smiling humbly at them and nodding occasionally to express his goodwill. He was neither servile nor overbearing, as he participated in the countless exchanges of topics with a relatively humble attitude. He was still adept at what was said and did what was asked of him. Perhaps this relatively humble and neither servile nor overbearing attitude was very strange in the eyes of others. But here, Qian Xingjin displayed it incisively and vividly, causing one to gasp in amazement, and it was a spectacle. No matter what the topic was, I was able to participate in it. Then, I clearly showed that I was inferior to everyone here, but I still had the right to participate in it, absolutely. Even Zhang Wufei was transmitting his voice to Yun Yang. How did the Qian family offend you? Yun Yang was silent for a moment before replying. There's no turning back in this matter, but you can choose to stay out of it. The Qian family is working hard, but I must seek justice for the grudge between them and my brother. This was Yun Yang's attitude. Zhang Wufei sighed and said nothing more. This time, the venue of the meeting was specially chosen for the martial arts practice field. Everyone was sitting on a chair carved from amethyst. There was no distinction between the nobility or the lowly status. It was a grand and imposing scene. Only the seats of the 4 rulers were placed at the front. Although they stood out from the crowd, no one dared to comment. The curtains slowly opened. Appearing on the stage, Yun Yang first cupped his fists and bowed before saying, I've abruptly asked all of you to stay because the residence of 9 Supremes has now improved to a new level. Because of this, Yun Yang has a presumptuous request. It's here. The 4 hall masters of the East Celestial Palace paled when they heard him. What was to come would come. Had the thing they feared the most finally come? Dongfang Haoran smiled and said, The residence of 9 Supremes' great improvement is obvious to all. This is a good thing, a blessing for the bound of universe. Although the residence of 9 Supremes was founded not long ago, We've enjoyed the current glory due to various circumstances. We want to go one step further and seize the position of the gold-class celestial luck banner. Coincidentally, the 4 rulers are here. Please be our witnesses and preside over the ceremony of ascension and the ranking battle. Yin Yang said with a faint smile. Everyone already knew about this, and what was happening now was just a formality. With Yin Yang's cultivation base of a half-step saint, it would be inexcusable if the sect he founded could not get a share of the gold-class celestial luck banner. Moreover, the residents of 9 Supremes had more than one saint emperor after the reuniting ceremony a few days ago. Apart from Chu Yunyang, there were other pinnacle 4th-grade saint emperors keeping watch. Their strength was unrivaled among all the sects with gold celestial luck banners. Dongfang Haoran and the others all smiled. Shimen Fanfu opened his mouth to help. This is truly a fortunate matter for mysterious yellow world. We are all here to witness this grand occasion, and we are happy to see it happen. No one questioned it, and the decision was made. Of course, the residents of 9 Supremes can go one step further, but we can't break the convention of ascension of the bound of yellow celestial luck banner. Everything must be done according to the old rule of ascension. The residents of 9 Supremes will first face the Sacred Soul Palace, one of the 4 palaces. If we can't even get through this, there's no need to mention anything. Hall Master Guan, do you have anything to say? Dongfang Haoran turned and asked. Zhang Wufei roared excitedly. Old Guan, fight it out with the residents of 9 Supremes. Let this junior know the strength of a gold-class celestial luck banner sect. The other 2 hall masters were equally fired up. Old Guan, you can't be a coward. We can't lose the honor. That's right. Fight to the end. Guan Mai looked at Zhang Wufei and the other 2 hall masters, as if he wanted to eat them alive. He had been colleagues for a long time, and he had long known that these 3 old men were not good people. Now his understanding was even more thorough and profound. Are they encouraging me to defend my title, or do they want to see me lose face? Get beaten up. Your father's cultivation base is only a first-tier beginner saint emperor. You want me to fight Yun Yang, a half-saint, to the end? Not to mention Yun Yang. Even those saint emperors under Yun Yang, although they were newly promoted, was he sure that he could defeat them? Once the residents of 9 Supremes' challenge began, the outcome was already decided. It was certain that he would be utterly humiliated. After all, the residents of 9 Supremes now had 9 saint emperors. How was he going to defend his title? What was he going to do? Yun Yang, a half-saint, what was he going to do? And that old man who had appeared out of nowhere. No matter how he looked at it, he was more intimidating than some pinnacle saint emperors. Where did this fellow come from? In fact, not only Guan Mai, but even Dongfang Haoran and the others' eyes lit up the moment Dong Qitian appeared. In spite of it, they had long made up their minds about Dong Qitian's existence. After all, it was this person's ascension that caused the gathering of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to be delayed for another hour during the residents of 9 Supremes' reuniting ceremony. Hence, all the big bosses had to pay more attention. Yin Yang said with a smile. Hall leader Guan, let's discuss the format and number of matches. What do you think? Guan Mai rolled his eyes and said, Supreme Yin is too courteous. There's no need to discuss this. Yin Yang wore a puzzled look on his face. Guan Mai took a breath and said straightforwardly, the residence of 9 Supremes is powerful. Sacred Soul Palace admits that it's no match for them. So we admit defeat and withdraw from the gold celestial luck banners. We'll make way for Supreme Yin. Hearing Guan Mai's words, the other 3 hall masters immediately let loose a torrent of abuse. The entire hall was filled with curses, and the boos were even louder. Damn you, Guan Mai, you're too much. How could you admit defeat without even fighting? Where's your shame? Where's the dignity of the 4 hall leaders? We still want you to feel out the residents of 9 Supremes. If there's a chance and Sacred Soul Palace wins 1 or 2 matches by luck, it may not affect the grand plan, or even the overall situation, but it's always good for us. Everyone has long determined that Sacred Soul Palace will lose, but if you can win a match, you'll block residents of 9 Supremes' way forward. The rules for the promotion of the Gold Celestial Luck banner were no different from those of other Celestial Luck banners. It was also possible to challenge continuously, but it had to be built on the basis of winning every match. As long as it's not a complete victory, we'll keep our position. There's no need to fight anymore. I didn't expect this bastard to admit defeat. King open the door slightly and make way for us to move forward. Why can't you be more literary? Can you be any more melodramatic? Why don't you just say that you can fight them and don't fight me? Among them, Yu Wubian, the leader of Sacred Divine Palace, was particularly angry. After Sacred Soul Palace admitted defeat, it would be his turn next. Facing residents of 9 Supremes, whose combat power was complete and whose trump card had not been revealed. Seeing Yun Yang glance over, Yu Wubian sucked in a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and stomped his feet. Sacred Divine Palace admits defeat. He had already understood that most of today's incident was Zhang Wufei's doing. Why did he have to bring all his men here to see their strength? Now it looked like he was asking for a beating. You, Zhang Wufei, want your father to help you block residents of 9 Supreme's way forward and reap the benefits? No way. If I go down a level, you'll go down a level too. You want to be alone? Dream on wishful thinking. CK. Zhang Wufei cursed. Are all of you still men? You're admitting defeat without even fighting? Where's your shame? Where's your pride? Thanks to the 2 leaders of the other 2 halls, it's Sacred Heart Palace's turn next. I have a deep friendship with Hall Leader Zhan, and we've even gone through life and death together. I seem to have even saved Hall Leader Zhan's life once. I wonder how Hall Leader Zhan wants to fight. Zhang Wufei's eyes widened, speechless. Shameless. You've said in front of so many people that you've saved my life before. You've saved my life, and you still want me to talk about how to fight? Let's not talk about anything else. As long as I say fight now, no matter who wins or loses, they will become a laughingstock tomorrow. This is how Zhang Wufei treats his savior. This person, you have to be careful before you save him. Don't save an ingrate, only to be devoured the next moment. This is only if Sacred Heart Palace wins. If Sacred Heart Palace loses in the end, the situation will be even worse. Zhang Wufei knows that he's no match for his savior, but he still wants to fight with his life on the line, and still loses in the end. This man is blinded by greed, utterly shameless and despicable. Do I still have the face to live? Zhang Wufei stuttered for a long time, unable to utter a single word. Yin Yang said, "What's wrong with Hall Leader? Could it be that Hall Leader has remembered the debt between us?" Zhang Wufei was even more dumbfounded and speechless. You're King threatening me like this, aren't you? If I don't admit defeat on the spot, you're going to ask me for the debt. How can you do this? Where's your dignity as the residents of 9 Supreme's Hall Leader? Sacred Heart Palace admits defeat. Zhang Wufei pondered for a moment, gritting his teeth and glaring at Yun Yang, finally admitting defeat. Thank you, Hall Master Zhan, you're too kind. Haha, when we're done drinking later, we must spar with each other. We must invite the seniors from the Sacred Heart Palace. Let's have some fun together. Coincidentally, there are so many people here. I'm sure they'd all like to watch a good show. As soon as he said this, the crowd erupted into an unprecedented frenzy. Spar. That's a great idea. Zhang Wufei's gaze that was initially fixed on Yin Yang turned into a fawning one. He chuckled and said, "It's reasonable for Lord Supreme Cloud to want the palace-level celestial luck banner. There's no need for a spar. Let's just drink until we're full. Lord Supreme Cloud has made a huge contribution to the bound of universe. I believe that anyone with a bit of conscience will not stand in front of Lord Supreme Cloud. I'm willing to open the residence of 9 Supreme's door for Lord Supreme Cloud, and make way for you to move forward. I'm so happy that I'm about to cry." Chapter 14:11. Yin Yang nodded and said, "Hall Master Zhan is indeed a man of honor. Thank you very much." Zhang Wufei wanted to cry, but had no tears. "Am I not a man of honor? You're going to collect the debt immediately. I can't stand it." Guan Mai and Yu Wubian looked at each other, dumbfounded and speechless for a long time. This man is really unsightly. He has the mouth to talk about others, but he has no mouth to talk about himself. Face, it's just a matter of fate. That's all there is to it. Zhang Wufei was indeed an outstanding talent. However, there was always someone stronger than the strong, and the strong were stronger than the strong. St. Origin Palace's hallmaster, Lu Chongfeng, sighed softly and said, St. Origin Palace congratulates Lord Supreme Cloud for residents of 9 Supremes becoming the chief disciple of the gold-grade Celestial Luck Banner. The unspoken implication was that St. Origin Palace had admitted defeat. To Lu Chongfeng, this result did not really matter. Even if his St. Origin Palace had 100,000 years of recuperation and continued to grow, it would still be difficult for it to have a chance to challenge the Eastern Celestial Palace. If so, why should he stop others? Not to mention that the defeat of this battle had long been decided. His sect was the only one left, so why should he be the villain? With residents of 9 Supreme's ability, so what if they were stopped this time? They would still continue to challenge in a few years' time. He could stop them once, but could he stop them forever? It was better to be a good person and let them pass. Although it was not a timely help, it was still the icing on the cake. At this point in time, the icing on the cake was also good. Residents of 9 Supremes had advanced to the gold-grade Celestial Luck Banner rank in just a few words, and it was the chief disciple. The results stunned everyone for a long time. The 3 aristocratic families, the 5 sacred lords, the 3 Talents Palace, the 4 Hall Masters, as well as the Chosen Ones and the Beast Kings, all looked at Yun Yang with a strange expression. Behind Yun Yang, Xiao Wui, Ping Zhanyue, Shi Wuchen, and the rest were overjoyed. If it were not for the fact that the guests were still present, they would have jumped up and cheered. The faces of the top 10 disciples were flushed as they tried their best to control their breathing to maintain a normal level. But from time to time, they had a subtle feeling that the more they tried to control their breathing, the more intense it became. In just a few moments, they were already short of breath and had lost their manners. Yun Xiuxin's beautiful hair was fluttering even though there was no wind. She was so excited that she was on the verge of exploding. What hall? Dongfang Haoren's expression did not change as he asked with a smile. Let's call it the Palace of 9 Supremes, Yun Yang answered. All right, let's call it the Palace of 9 Supremes. I believe that this title means a lot to you. Dongfang Haoren naturally wouldn't make things difficult for them. He immediately said, now it's time for us to show our strength. Show us the Celestial Luck Banners. The Celestial Luck Banners of Sacred Heart Palace, St. Origin Palace, Sacred God Palace, and Sacred Soul Palace appeared at the same time. The shadow of the Amethyst Celestial Luck Banner also appeared above Dongfang Haoren's head. The Amethyst Celestial Luck Banner swayed slowly, as if it was moving with the wind, but it was already breathtaking and shocking. Then Guan Mai, the master of Sacred Soul Palace, heaved a long sigh and took a step back. At the same time, the golden Celestial Luck Banner with the word Sacred Soul on it trembled. Dongfang Haoren's Amethyst Celestial Luck Banner moved abruptly. In the blink of an eye, the purple Celestial Luck Banner had already brushed past the Sacred Soul Palace's Celestial Luck Banner. A dazzling golden light burst out, then turned into a brilliant silver. This meant that the gold Celestial Luck Banner had been demoted to silver. The next moment, the aura of Guanmai's cultivation base dropped a lot. Being closely related to the Celestial Luck Banner had its pros and cons. The pros, such as Yin Yang's residence of 9 Supremes, could be combined, upgraded, and promoted. Once it succeeded, it would benefit everyone. But once it lost its position, like Guanmai, its cultivation base would drop a lot. Then, all the former disciples of Sacred Soul Palace would be the same, no longer able to regain their former glory. It was precisely because of this that the demon race was working hard to find a way to deal with the human race's Celestial Luck Banner. If they really found a way to destroy the Celestial Luck Banner, it would be a catastrophe for the human race, the doomsday of the bound of universe. The Sacred Soul Palace's Celestial Luck Banner dropped in an instant. The amethyst light of the Amethyst Celestial Luck Banner, wrapped in a ball of golden light, turned into the sky, and brushed past the residence of 9 Supreme's Celestial Luck Banner. The silver Celestial Luck Banner that belonged to the residence of 9 Supremes, which was initially only a faint smear of gold, suddenly turned golden when the purple Celestial Luck Banner brushed past it. Then it climbed a lot higher, all the way to the 9th heaven. Immediately, The golden light shone 90,000 miles, illuminating 3,000 miles, bringing color to the universe. The radiance was so bright that it illuminated the entire Xianhuang world. For thousands of miles, the skies were filled with a golden radiance. The words Palace of Nine Supremes seemed to be frozen in the sky, lingering for a long time. In just a moment, an endless spiritual chi storm seemed to be summoned from beyond the heavens along with the brilliance, surging into the residence of Nine Supremes like a tsunami. No, it should be the Palace of Nine Supremes now. Dongfang Haoran, Shimen Fufu, and the others stared expectantly at the spiritual chi storm in the sky. In just 3 days, the residence of Nine Supremes' celestial luck banner had been upgraded again. And it was a qualitative improvement. This could be said to have surpassed the weight of 2 superimposed times. 90% of the spiritual chi from the last time had not been completely transformed, and it was all hidden in the residence of Nine Supremes. This time, however, an even greater amount of heaven and earth spiritual chi was about to descend. Anyone present could tell that the benefits of the gathering of heaven and earth spiritual chi this time would definitely be greater than the last time. Then, the overall strength of the residence of Nine Supremes was bound to take another leap. Perhaps they would witness a miracle here today. It should be another miracle. The gathering of heaven and earth spiritual chi a few days ago was already a miracle. It turned out that miracles were divided into different levels. The spiritual chi storm surged in like the collapse of the sky, surging into the Palace of Nine Supremes. Witnessing such a grand occasion with his own eyes, even Shimen Fufu could not help but whisper into Dongfang Haoran's ear. Dongfang, the residence of Nine Supremes has become the Palace of Nine Supremes. The next target is you. Are you shocked? Are you panicking? Dongfang Haoran smiled faintly. What are you shocked about? What are you panicking about? I don't believe that your ancestors didn't leave behind a prophecy. Shimen Fufu was stunned, his eyes widening. You mean? Dongfang Haoran said slowly. You really don't know? The demon clan is already in chaos. Perhaps the great cause of 1,000 years is right in front of us. What's a little personal honor? Shimen Fufu and Beigong Liuli's faces turned unprecedentedly solemn. From this moment until the spiritual chi storm ended 7 days later, the 4 rulers did not say a word. Although the gathering of heaven and earth spiritual chi had only lasted for 7 days, the overall scale of the spiritual chi was 30% more than the previous one. The reason why it lasted was shorter was because the experts in the Palace of Nine Supremes had improved in quality. Naturally, the amount of spiritual chi that these people could consume in a unit of time was much greater. Therefore, the duration of the spiritual chi gathering this time was mostly consumed by their own people. After all, the residence of Nine Supremes did not only have Yun Yang, who had reached the pinnacle of cultivation, but it also had a dozen experts who were above the level of Saint Lord. The residence of Nine Supremes had undergone another huge change after this promotion. Everything was changing. The change this time was not only good news, but also bad news. More than 700 of the residents of Nine Supremes' disciples had died in the high pressure of the spiritual chi storm this time. The mystical chi in these disciples had boosted their cultivation base with the elevation of the celestial luck banner. This was supposed to be a good thing, as it could be completely turned into their own after a period of consolidation. However, the residents of Nine Supremes' promotion to the Palace of Nine Supremes came one after the other. The time interval was too short. Many of them who were not talented enough, had poor temperament, and were not strong enough had their meridians shattered. Even if they could be repaired by the spiritual chi, they had to face the endless spiritual chi rushing through their meridians again, shattering them and repairing them again. The process was rather long. It was a full 7 days. It was inevitable that some of them could not withstand it. During one of the shattering, they lost their focus and died, their souls scattered. No one knew all of this at the time. Everyone in the residence of Nine Supremes was in the same painful and torturous situation. They could barely hold on. So how could they care about others? The spiritual chi storm this time was definitely a good thing for the people of the residence of Nine Supremes. It was really a good thing from the sky. After eating and digesting it, One could ascend to heaven in a single step. However, if one could not eat it or digest it, one would only choke to death and die from overeating. If one wanted a good thing to fall from the sky, one would only be smashed to death by the pie that fell from the sky without ability, aptitude, comprehension, luck, and without these conditions. In the end, those who managed to survive in the Palace of Nine Supremes territory had their auras elevated. This included Dongfang Haoran and others. The one who benefited the most was Yun Yang. Not only was his cultivation unhindered, but he had also accumulated his cultivation base all the way to the pinnacle of half-saint. He had also absorbed the abundant spiritual qi for 2.5 consecutive days. If it were not for this fellow who had intercepted almost 15% of the spiritual qi storm, the spiritual qi storm could have lasted for at least another day. Yun Yang was obviously trying to break through to the level of saint in one fell swoop by draining the pond. However, to break through to the level of saint required an opportunity and comprehension. It was not something that could be achieved with an endless amount of spiritual qi. Yun Yang had yet to take this step. Dong Qitian, on the other hand, had forcefully broken through to half-saint, but he had paid a hefty price for it. His internal organs had been shattered 3 times. Fortunately, he had broken through in the end, and his cultivation base had risen all the way to half-saint intermediate level. Ji Lingxi and Shangguan Lingxiu's cultivation base had also improved by leaps and bounds, reaching the pinnacle of 4th-grade Saint Emperor. The two women's situation was different from Yun Yang's. Other than having a strong foundation, their foundations had long been perfected, and they only needed the support of a massive amount of spiritual qi to reach the pinnacle of Saint Emperor. This time, they had reached this level as they wished, but if they wanted to break through again, they would have to follow the same routine as the others. The Demiurge Flawed 10 had also made their own breakthroughs. Among them, Shi Wuchen and Luo Dajiang, who had the highest cultivation base, had advanced to the intermediate level of 4th-grade Saint Emperor, while Tai Ching-sung and Lan Ruojuan were beginner-level 4th-grade Saint Emperors. The weakest among the others had also reached the 3rd-grade Saint Emperor. Xiao Wui had broken through to the beginner-level 3rd-grade Saint Emperor, while Ping Jinyue had broken through to the 2nd-grade Saint Emperor. Compared to these people who had broken through to the level of Saint Emperor, Yun Xiuxin, Hu Xiaofan, and Bai Yexing among the first-generation disciples of the residents of Nine Supremes, had also reached the level of Saint Emperor. Among them, Yun Xiuxin and Hu Xiaofan were the strongest, having reached the pinnacle of 1st-grade Saint Emperor, while Bai Yexing had also reached the pinnacle of 1st-grade Saint Emperor. The other eldest disciples had stopped at the pinnacle of 4th-grade Saint Emperor, only half a step away from breaking through. Among the 100 eldest disciples of the residents of Nine Supremes, except for one who had exploded and died midway, the rest were all Saint Venerables. As for the other disciples, the number of Saint Emperor cultivators in the residence of Nine Supremes had reached 3,000. Even the weakest of the other disciples were at the saint level. The other disciples here referred to all the disciples who had joined the Palace of Nine Supremes, including those little fellows who had never participated in a battle. More than 8,000 people had also risen like a rocket with the help of this wave of spiritual qi. Chirp. Chirp. This non-human creature, who had naturally followed Yun Yang to the residence of Nine Supremes, had not only recovered from its previous injuries, but its cultivation base had also soared to the level of 4th-grade Saint Emperor. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that its head was now covered with fiery red fur, and it was no longer bald. Among the 5 white Is, the 4 Eclipse Panther white Is had successfully advanced to the pinnacle of 3rd-grade Saint Emperor. As for the remaining lightning cat, the process of advancement was extremely dangerous. Its meridians and internal organs had exploded more than a dozen times, but the benefits of the essence of the 9-life cat, that Bai Bingxian had imparted to it were obvious. In the end, it had advanced to the level of 4th-grade Saint Emperor without any mishap. Although it was far behind the other white Is, it was already a unique and unparalleled ancient cat. Speaking of danger, the lightning cat had gone through the crisis of exploding more than a dozen times, But the most dangerous one in this breakthrough was little fatty Qian Duoduo. His aptitude was not considered good. Even though he had been staying in the residence of 9 Supremes in recent years and experienced the baptism of endless spiritual essence, he was different from the other disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes. The most he did was to manage the sex affairs and business operations, and he rarely cultivated himself. It was like staying in Spirited Mountain all year round, but he rarely absorbed the mountain's spiritual essence. It was because of this that Yun Yang had taken care of Qian Duoduo during this breakthrough, and when it came to the critical moment, he would only take care of Qian Duoduo alone. Without Yun Yang's protection, little Fatty would have died at least 20 to 30 times during this process of advancement. He would not have been able to hold on half a day after the spiritual qi storm began to pour in. In fact, it was also because of this that so many disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes had died. Otherwise, if Yun Yang had used his divine sense to protect them, the death toll of 700 people would have been reduced by at least 70%. There was also one more thing. The moment the spiritual qi storm formed, Yun Yang had moved Amy out of the space, along with the divine edge and the purple jade flute, as well as the miniature residence of 9 Supremes. He had done it so discreetly that even the rulers did not notice it. It had been a full 7 days. Even when the high pressure of the spiritual qi storm had disappeared, the spiritual qi in the residence of 9 Supremes was still abundant, as if it had turned into an ocean of spiritual qi. In addition, the spiritual qi this time was completely innate spiritual qi, mixed with some Taoist rhymes that resembled the breath of heaven. A miracle, just like what Dongfang Haoren had said, miracles had different levels. And this time, it was obviously a special case that was even more miraculous than a miracle. It could only be described as a miracle. These people were the ones who had witnessed a miracle. On the 8th day, the spiritual qi storm had ended. However, Dongfang Haoren's expression changed. Everyone leave immediately. They had actually chased him away forcefully. After the spiritual qi storm ended, before Yin Yang had woken up from his meditative state, the 4 rulers had already started to chase them away. All of you leave quickly. Go back and digest what you've gained, consolidate the benefits you've gained this time, and prepare for war. I reckon that the war with the demon race will take place within these 3 to 5 years. Zhang Wufei and the rest left reluctantly. Of course they would. The spiritual qi density of the residence of 9 Supremes now far exceeded that of the 3 heavenly palaces by a few times. Perhaps, the residence of 9 Supremes had already become the world's #1 blessed land. Well, it should be called the Palace of 9 Supremes now. Besides, we haven't bid farewell to our master, and Yin Yang is still meditating. Why would he chase us away so early? Everyone was extremely puzzled by this point. However, no one dared to stay when the 4 rulers chased them away. Even the elders and sons of the 3 heavenly palaces, as well as the beast kings of Tian Fa Holy Land, were chased off the main peak, not allowed to linger. Comparisons are odious, and comparisons are odious. On the way out, Zhang Wufei could not stop muttering. Back then, when the Sacred Heart Palace obtained the gold-class Celestial Luck Banner, they were only blessed by the spiritual qi storm for 3 days, and it was all acquired level spiritual qi. But everyone was so happy then, thinking that they'd reach the heavens in a single bound. Now looking at the treatment the residence of 9 Supremes is receiving, even this old man feels jealous. The other temple leaders and divine lords were also filled with envy and jealousy. There was no comparison at all. Such a miracle was something that they could not even dream of. The residence of 9 Supremes' ascension is a foregone conclusion. Guanmai, from the Sacred Soul Palace, smiled bitterly. The Sacred Soul Palace had now become the Sacred Soul Sect. In the past few days, Guanmai had completely adjusted his mentality. Just looking at the residence of 9 Supremes' ascension alone was enough to make him give up completely. The residence of 9 Supremes' ability had grown at least 10-fold during this period of time. 10 days ago, the residence of 9 Supremes might have needed to mobilize a lot of forces and trump cards to defeat the Sacred Soul Sect. But now, the higher-ups of the residence of 9 Supremes only needed to mobilize one person, other than Yin Yang, to wipe out the entire Sacred Soul sect. The difference was like heaven and earth. Lu Changfeng mused. Do you think the Palace of Nine Supremes' next target will be the Sky Palace? As soon as this question came out, everyone's expression changed. Then they all shut their mouths. The question was too sensitive. Qian Xingjin walked in the middle of the crowd, his expression extremely solemn. After descending the mountain, the Li clan and the Sikong clan left first. But Qian Xingjin specially rushed over to see them off, giving each clan a farewell gift, trying his best to be as attentive as possible. The two family leaders held the gifts that Qian Xingjin had carefully selected, their expression strange, as if they did not really want to accept them. Family leader Li sighed a few times and said after a moment of silence, Brother Qian, our three families are the top 3 aristocratic families in the world. We have been together for a long time, and we naturally have a friendship. Therefore, I have something to say first. If I have offended you, I apologize in advance. Family leader Qian said, Brother Li's words are sincere. Please say it. I believe Brother Qian has seen the current situation of the Palace of Nine Supremes. This time, the Palace of Nine Supremes has risen to the sky. If I'm not wrong, the Palace of Nine Supremes will probably be quiet for a period of time after today to digest the great benefits of this promotion. When it reopens its doors, it will grow into a behemoth that is no weaker than the Eastern Celestial Palace. As he spoke, family leader Sikong nodded in agreement, but at the same time, his face was full of worry. Family leader Qian's expression grew darker and darker. So, if Brother Qian has any grudges with the Palace of Nine Supremes in the past, it's better to resolve them as soon as possible. If this conflict is left for the future, I'll say something right here. Once the conflict explodes, not only will I not dare to help you, I won't even dare to say a word of support. Family leader Li sighed. Family leader Sikong looked conflicted as well. Me too. The situation is stronger than the person. Qian Xingjin's heart turned cold as he said, Our three families are of the same breath and branch, and we have always been friendly. There is no force in this world that can shake the alliance of our three families, no matter how powerful the Palace of Nine Supremes is. Family leader Li interrupted him with a wave of his hand and said, Brother Qian, you think too highly of the Li family. We are of the same breath and branch. Don't say anything more. I've discussed it with Brother Sikong just now. It's best for our three families to dissolve the alliance from now on. Brother Li, Brother Sikong, our three noble families have been in this world for tens of thousands of years. We've been through all kinds of storms and waves. Are the two of you so afraid of the Palace of Nine Supremes, a newly founded sect that rose by luck? Haha, the times make the heroes, and the heroes make the times. The Palace of Nine Supremes is now at its zenith, with unparalleled luck, but I don't deny that the Palace of Nine Supremes is enough to affect the survival of our two families. Therefore, we dare not make the slightest move. At this moment, family leader Qian actually saw the envy towards him in family leader Li's eyes. Envy. The perception almost made Qian Xingjin think that he had seen wrongly. I'm so miserable now, and you're still envious of me? What do I have to be envious of? Brother Li, you? Qian Xingjin hesitated. Family leader Li sighed and said, Brother Qian, if you hadn't come after us this time, we would have. But since you're here, I might as well make things clear to you. He paused, and when family leader Sikong smiled bitterly, he continued. In fact, the residents of Nine Supreme's strong rise will affect all the sects in this world to a considerable extent. If there are no accidents, the Qian family must be one of the few families that can stay out of it and keep most of their families safe. Qian Xingjin's expression suddenly froze. He knew very well that these two men would not speak without reason. However, he could not think of the reason at all. The Qian family is famous for being a merchant, and your businesses are spread across the world. Even if your market is invaded and suppressed, at most, your assets will only shrink, but it won't be destroyed. On the other hand, the two of us are very different. Family leader Li sighed deeply. In these few days, both of us have more freedom than Brother Qian, and we've had some contact with the residents of Nine Supreme's disciples. It's also because of these contacts that we've discovered two huge problems. Although family leader Sikong did not speak much, the worry on his thin face grew deeper. One of the problems is the residents of Nine Supreme's standard weapons. All the residents of Nine Supreme's disciples whose cultivation base has reached the level of Saint King will have their own exclusive weapons. There are not many types of weapons in the residence of Nine Supremes, only a dozen of sabers, spears, swords, and halberds. Based on the number of disciples in the residence of Nine Supremes, there should be a great business opportunity in this. However, the reality is, the exclusive weapons of the Saint King disciples are all the best in this world. Each of these weapons is enough to cause a great commotion and stir up a storm of blood. The bitterness on family leader Li Changtian's face was almost dripping. I've carefully observed and played with their weapons. Although the weapons are of the same standard, each of them is the best in terms of sharpness, toughness, and sturdiness. What's more, these weapons contain spirituality that will grow along with the cultivation base of their owners. You should know that these weapons with spirituality can grow to a level where they can repair themselves, even if they're damaged. Even if we're given another 1,000,000 years, we won't be able to forge such divine weapons. However, such weapons are actually mass-produced in the residence of Nine Supremes. When the Palace of Nine Supremes reopens, its disciples, who have finished recuperating, will definitely roam the martial arts world in large numbers. By then, weapons will be a great help to them in the entire bound of universe. Other than a handful of elite weapons, the other weapons circulating in the martial arts world will only be destroyed instantly when faced with their sabers and swords. I don't even dare to think about what will happen when that time comes. Family leader Li's face was bitter. Family leader Qian sucked in a cold breath, speechless for a moment. If that was the case, the martial world would definitely exhaust all their wealth to purchase a weapon produced by the Palace of Nine Supremes, especially the ace cultivators. Once this happened, no one would choose the Li family's weapons other than those who really could not afford it. This was equivalent to kicking the Li family out of the high-end market. To a family of weaponsmiths, this was a devastating blow. A family of weaponsmiths that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years and was famous for forging weapons actually claimed that they could not forge a standardized weapon that could be mass-produced. How could this not be a joke? The Palace of Nine Supremes might not sell such a strategic weapon, will it? Family leader Qian said hesitantly. If it was just the Palace of Nine Supremes, they might not have allowed the weapons to flow out. But now, the war against the demon clan is about to begin. The Palace of Nine Supremes' divine weapons, especially those that can be mass-produced. Even if the Palace of Nine Supremes cherishes them, the three heavenly palaces won't allow such strategic weapons to be limited to one sect or sect. How can the three palace lords not see what we can see? This can already be foreseen. I think the Palace of Nine Supremes will start selling when it reopens. Family leader Li said dejectedly. No matter how unwilling the Li family is, we're still happy to see the residents of Nine Supremes provide a weapon that can save one's life and increase one's combat strength for all those who fight against the demons. Family leader Qian was dumbfounded. If this was done, he believed that most of the martial world people would still stand on the Palace of Nine Supremes' side, no matter how expensive it was. As soon as the thought occurred to him, his heart turned as cold as ice. Then Brother Sikong. Family leader Qian looked at Sikong Jiuzhuan with a glimmer of hope. Do you think the residents of Nine Supremes' disciples' improved aptitude and cultivation base, and the fact that a teenage girl can become a saint emperor or a saint king, is only because of the celestial luck banner's spiritual qi? The smile on Sikong Jiuzhuan's face was uglier than a crying face. Family leader Qian, medicinal pills, medicinal pills. Qian Xingjin was dumbstruck. I don't know how the residents of Nine Supremes' medicinal pills are refined, but they have reached a level where there are no side effects at all, and their effects are incredible, Sikong Jiuzhuan said with a broken heart. What's more frightening is that after the Palace of Nine Supremes upgrade this time, those relatively low-end medicinal pills that won't be used in the next 100 years will all be sold to the public. But their so-called low-end medicinal pills are even better than our high-end medicinal pills. and they have no side effects at all. Sikong Jiuzhuan looked like he was about to vomit blood as he said, "This time, I bought 10 bottles of different kinds of medicinal pills in one go and carefully examined them. Do you know what I saw? I saw that on every single medicinal pill, there were traces of pill clouds, the legendary traces of pill clouds. When all of us alchemists refine pills of this level together, including luck, it's already a miracle if we can refine one pill every 10 years. As he spoke, he took out a bottle of medicinal pills and slowly opened it. A cloud of pill clouds drifted out, and a round medicinal pill was poured out of the bottle. The entire pill was shrouded in a pill cloud, making it difficult to distinguish the specific shape of the pill at first glance. This went on for a while. Even when the pill came into contact with the outside air, the pill cloud did not dissipate. Instead, it grew thicker and thicker, making it a spectacular sight. The legend is true. A medicinal pill with traces of pill clouds can actually absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth on its own and get rid of the pill poison. Naturally, such a pill has no side effects. Sikong Jiuzhuan was trembling all over. Such a pill can also be mass-produced in the residence of 9 Supremes. As long as this pill starts to be sold, our Sikong family's days will not be any better than Brother Li's. Pill poison had always been the biggest taboo of medicinal pills. For countless years, pills without pill poison had only been passed down in legends. It was said that the Situ family's ancestor had once refined a type of spiritual pill without pill poison by chance, thus establishing the Situ family's glory as a family of medicinal pills. However, after the Situ family's ancestor, the Situ family would occasionally sell a pill of pill cloud every 100 years or so. It was unknown whether the pill was left behind by the ancestor, or if the Situ family had refined it out of luck. Now that the residents of 9 Supremes had such a method of mass-producing the pill cloud, how could the Situ family bow down and admit defeat? Clan leader Qian was completely stunned, so much so that he did not hear what Li Changtian and Sikong Jiuzhuan said after that. His mind was in a state of chaos. He did not notice when the 2 clan leaders had left. He only felt that the world was dark. Why did Sikong Jiuzhuan and Li Changtian return in such a hurry? He understood it very well. Under such circumstances, they needed to go home and discuss how to flatter the palace of 9 Supremes. It was already a blessing from heaven to be able to follow them and let their families survive. As for going against the palace of 9 Supremes with the Qian family, these 2 families would never dare to do so even if a knife was placed on their necks. How could human beings resist such a trend? Li family and Situ family's basic understanding was not wrong. The quality of the residents of 9 Supremes' weapons and pills had indeed reached the peak of this world, and they could be mass-produced. These were all facts, but it was also nonsense to say that they could be mass-produced without limit. The main reason why the residents of 9 Supremes could mass-produce pills and weapons was undoubtedly Emmy. Emmy was so resourceful that it could grow spiritual herbs limitlessly and refine all kinds of rare metals and metals. Complemented by yin-yang swallow-plucking feathers, he had forcefully wreaked havoc on the 2 realms, collecting at least 20 to 30% of what the 2 realms had accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years. That was how the residence of 9 Supremes' current glory was built. Whether it was Emmy or yin-yang swallow-plucking feathers, it would be impossible to achieve such a grand occasion without either. As the resources were consumed, even if Emmy was still producing like a fish in water, there was still a limit. Of course, when it came to the sale of elixirs and weapons, it was the best way to collect as many elixirs and rare metals as possible. If you wanted to get the best elixirs and weapons, you had to pay a great price, give a lot of elixirs, spiritual materials, and rare metals. How could you get them? Therefore, the upcoming sale of the 9 Supreme shares was not targeted at the Li family or the Situ family. It was truly fate in fate. Qian Xingjin was stunned by the words of the 2 family leaders, sitting outside the palace of 9 Supremes' mountain gate in a daze, not moving for a long time. Before this, Leader Qian did not feel anything even if the palace of 9 Supremes was successfully upgraded. After all, he was a business family. Even if the palace of 9 Supremes was unparalleled in ability, and had made up his mind to avenge Qian Duoduo. It was impossible for him to uproot the Qian family. After all, the Qian family's foundation was incomparable to that of the General Commerce League. The General Commerce League was only a plate of loose sand that had been forcefully assembled. The main reason was that the auction was to dispose of stolen goods. Although it was spread all over the world, it was still a single category. Once it was attacked, its power would plummet and it would be in danger. The Qian family, on the other hand, was a family of merchants that had stood tall in the bound of universe for countless years. They shared the same bloodline and had tens of thousands of years of glory and cohesion. There was a fundamental difference between them. Now, however, he felt an unprecedented chill rising from the bottom of his heart. The residence of 9 Supremes was terrifying. How could the Qian family contend against such a faction, such influence, and such strength? The 5 elders at the side also felt heavy in their hearts. "Leader, what should we do now? You have to come up with an idea as soon as possible." "I didn't expect the residence of 9 Supremes to have such a strong foundation, that even our 3 noble families have to look up to it." Qian Xingjin was stunned for a long time, before he finally snapped out of it and said urgently, "Go home immediately. Go home as fast as you can. Discuss important matters." Without further delay, the 6 of them tore through the air like meteors and hurried to the headquarters of the Qian family. This matter was no longer something that he, the leader of the family, could decide on. The whole family must discuss and gather their wisdom to determine what to do in order to preserve a chance of survival. However, at this moment, Qian Xingjin could already vaguely feel that a dark cloud that shrouded the entire heaven and earth was gradually turning to focus on the Qian family. It was a feeling that was both real and illusory, but it was also a real feeling of impending disaster. On the high platform of the residence of 9 Supremes' higher authorities, Dongfang Haoran and the others had yet to leave. Their gazes were fixed on the object that was floating beside Yin Yang in surprise. With their status, knowledge, and experience, how could anything that could surprise them be a small matter? It was also because of this that they had driven everyone away immediately. Chapter 14:12. Although the spiritual qi storm had ended on a large scale, the spiritual qi storm around Yin Yang, which was at the highest point of the storm, was still ongoing. It was also because of this that Dongfang Haoran and the others finally saw part of Yin Yang's trump card for the first time. Everyone, including Dongfang Haoran and many others from the East Celestial Palace, were familiar with the divine edge. In spite of this, the saber was like a funnel that forcefully tore apart the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, and sucked it in like a whale swallowing the sea. However, the slender blade, which was obviously not an ordinary length, seemed to contain a vast amount of spiritual energy. Even though it had absorbed an immeasurable amount of spiritual energy, it still did not seem to be full. In fact, it was far from being enough. As the spiritual qi was injected, the saber hummed from time to time. It was an excited hum filled with hunger and thirst, as if it could finally have a full meal. There was also a hint of bloodlust and killing intent. Dongfang Haoran could even feel the intelligence of this blade. It was letting out a light cry filled with excitement. It was thirsting for the slaughter of blood and fire, as if it was declaring war on this world. Facing such a phenomenon, even someone as accomplished as Dongfang Haoran felt an inexplicable urge to surrender. It was as if the saber represented God's will, and where God's will belonged. This mighty saber was only located at the edge of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Beside the divine edge was a purple jade flute. It was a purple jade flute that struck fear into the hearts of the sons of saints. Although that saber was sharp, indestructible, and had an intimidating aura, this purple jade flute seemed to be glowing with a deep purple light, and seemed to have no lethality. However, this purple jade flute was a weapon that could kill a saint monarch with a casual touch. A casual wave of the flute was a killing weapon that could kill countless saint monarchs. At this moment, the purple jade flute was still flowing with purple light as usual. The endless spiritual energy of heaven and earth seemed to be automatically surging into the purple jade flute. The momentum seemed to be inferior to the blade, but in fact, it was also endless. It was not satisfied, and did not have the slightest intention of stopping. What followed was something special that had never been seen before. It was a small house that looked like a naughty child's model, but it was exceptionally exquisite. The pavilion was clear, and the hall was clear. The most striking thing was the 3 words on the lintel of the house. The residence of 9 Supremes. Dongfang Haoren's pupil shrank. This small house is the real residence of 9 Supremes. For a time, all 4 hegemons had a flash of understanding. This model-like house originally had a thin ribbon tied to the purple jade flute. However, as the spiritual energy from the bottom of the sky continued to pour in, the thin ribbon gradually became transparent, as if it was about to disappear. Everyone had already witnessed the might of the purple jade flute and the blade. As for this small house, it had never appeared before. Just seeing this, Dongfang Haoren and the others felt their scalps go numb. Could this small house be another trump card that Yin Yang had never used? In the battle where the purple jade flute had appeared, it had killed countless saints. Its power was earth-shattering and unrivaled, but it was still placed on the right side of this small house. Did this mean that this small house's power was even greater than the purple jade flute? Other than the saber, the flute, and the small house, there was a 4th item that was continuously absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It was a small lotus. Yes, it was really a small lotus with a tiny leaf right by Yin Yang's feet. The lotus only had 7 leaves, and the 8th leaf was only in its infancy, with only a sharp bud. In terms of appearance, this small lotus was the most inconspicuous. It was no different from those useless potted lotus plants that were only for ornamental purposes. Other than being slightly exquisite and beautiful, there was nothing special about it. However, Dongfang Haoren and the others saw with their own eyes that this small lotus was absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth at a terrifying speed among the 4 items. The swirl of spiritual energy above the lotus connected to heaven and earth, drawing all the rich natural spiritual energy through the vast void and into the huge swirl, and then forcibly collecting it. Translator, Zephyzi editor, Dio Quinn. I've heard Yin Yang mention this saber before. It's called Destiny. Dongfang Haoren's expression was solemn. I don't know the rest. Shiman Fafa's eyes were filled with admiration as he said softly, the 4 treasures before us. Each of them is of a level that we don't know, a level that we can't even come into contact with. The levels of these 4 treasures are beyond our knowledge, but they are also of different levels. It looks like the saber is the weakest. I don't think so. Meng Jiu was the one who disagreed. He smiled faintly and said, you guys probably didn't look closely. The saber looks like it's absorbing the least spiritual chi, but it's actually absorbing more and more. 2 hours ago, the spiritual chi it absorbed was only as thick as a bucket, but now it's almost as thick as a vat. As for the purple jade flute and the small house, they're absorbing far more spiritual chi than the saber, but they haven't changed at all. It's still unknown whether they can surpass them in the end. Shiman Fafa was shocked. You mean? This saber probably has the attribute of self-growth. It's still in its infancy until now. It needs time to slowly grow. But the purple jade flute and the small house have already matured. I agree with Meng Jiu's opinion. No one can imagine how far this saber can grow in the end, much less come to a conclusion. Dongfang Haoren said softly, I think that lotus is the most extraordinary. Beigong Liuli heaved a long sigh. No wonder. An ordinary sex advancement can only last a day or 2 even with the spiritual chi storm. But it's lasted for 10 days and 10 nights here. Plus, the real essence is far more than that. Dongfang Haoren's eyes glinted as he said, if I'm not wrong, these are all items that can suppress heaven and earth's providence. I'm afraid that Yin Yang doesn't have just these 4. Not just. The other 3 were stunned for a moment. Dongfang Haoren pursed his lips and said, look at the main hall. Where Yin Yang lives, there's obviously a small spiritual chi whirlpool there that keeps falling. I think there's someone hiding there to share the benefits. The 3 of them looked over in shock. They saw an innate chi whirlpool the thickness of a finger shoot down from the sky, entering the main hall, and disappearing without a trace. Because the whirlpool was too thin, compared to the abundance of spiritual chi in the residence of 9 Supremes, It would be difficult to notice it if not for their sharp eyes. That's also a growing one, Dongfang Haoren sighed and said. In the beginning, the whirlpool was only the thickness of a hair. But now, it's the thickness of a bowl. The difference. Once he said this, the four of them could not help but look at each other in silence. Let them go back to their work. Don't gather here, Dongfang Haoren said faintly. On the surface, the spiritual qi whirlpool still looks like it's heading straight for Yin-Yang. He then summoned Shi Wuchen. Tell everyone to go back and cultivate in seclusion, including the sons of 9 Supremes. The harvest this time is too great. If we don't digest it soon, there will be many hidden dangers, and it won't be good for us. Then over here. Shi Wuchen understood this, but he was worried about Yin-Yang. You're still worried with the few of us old men here? Besides, his 2 wives are here too, and there's a hidden expert. Dongfang Haoren smiled at a void and said, Don't you think so? Haha. Dong Qitian guffawed and finally showed himself. With Dong Qitian, Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu here, Shi Wuchen and the others were relieved and left immediately. In fact, after 2 horrifying elevations, the saber and sword will on Shi Wuchen, Luo Dajiang, and the others were already overflowing and uncontrollable. Among them, Shi Wuchen was the only one who was slightly better off. The rest were having a hard time dealing with it. Lan Ruojuan's clothes were torn and tattered by his own sword will. This was a sign of imbalance in one's mystical qi, mental strength, and cultivation base after a huge improvement. If it was not stopped, the imbalance would turn into a loss of control, and the situation would worsen to the point of no return. Therefore, Shi Wuchen and the others had to go into closed-door cultivation to deal with their own problems. Seeing that Shi Wuchen and the others had left, Dong Qitian was silent for a moment before finally turning his gaze to Dongfang Haoren. Dongfang Haoren looked at Dong Qitian with interest and smiled knowingly. The muscles on Dong Qitian's face twitched as he said in a low voice, Palace Lord Dongfang, it's been a while. Dongfang Haoren said, If I'm not mistaken, you're Dong Qitian? One of the 8 experts who joined forces to annihilate the soul demon? Dong Qitian sighed deeply. That's right. I didn't expect Palace Lord Dongfang to still remember me. His words were filled with emotion. His meeting with Dongfang Haoren back then was mainly because he, Lei Qianli, and the other 7 had joined forces to annihilate the soul demon. It was not too long ago, but everyone was the best of the best, and Dong Qitian was not considered outstanding among them. After all, Dong Qitian was only a pinnacle supreme saint then, not even a saint. At that time, Dongfang Haoren was already the palace lord of the East Celestial Palace, a saint-level powerhouse, the pinnacle existence of this world, looking down on all living beings. Dong Qitian was truly surprised that such a prominent figure could still remember Dong Qitian until now. There was even a surge of warmth surging within him. F***CK. After more than 4,000 years, there's finally someone who remembers me. Joining the residence of 9 Supremes is a great opportunity. You've improved so fast. Dongfang Haoren smiled. Dong Qitian was silent for a moment before he said, It hasn't been long since I officially joined the residence of 9 Supremes. I've been in closed-door cultivation most of the time before that, and I've been in closed-door cultivation for 4,300 years. No wonder, Dongfang Haoren said with a sudden realization. Dong Qitian smiled faintly and said, It should be enough for me to be favored by Palace Lord, but there's something in my heart that I can't help but ask. I'm looking for someone, and may I ask if Palace Lord Dongfang knows his whereabouts? I've been out in the world for several years, but I've never heard of his whereabouts. Dongfang Haoren was curious. Oh, who's that person? His name is Jun Buxi. Dong Qitian's eyes were bright. I've remembered this name for more than 4,000 years. It's really unforgettable and indelible. It was this person who captured me in the blink of an eye. I believe this person should have a place among the top experts in the bound of universe. Does Palace Lord Dongfang know? Dongfang Haoren was confused. Jun Buxi? He searched his mind but realized that he had no recollection of this name at all. He turned to look at Shiman Fafu, who shook their heads at the same time. I've never heard of this name. Python 9 shook his head in confusion as well. June Buxi? I don't think I've heard of this name. The few rulers have never heard of June Buxi as well. Dong Qitian was stunned. Thinking back to that year, that person had inexplicably found him. In the beginning, he was very polite, drank 2 cups of wine, and got along very well. But for some reason, he suddenly turned hostile and wanted to spar with him. Then, he got into a good posture and circulated his qi. But that person only used 1 finger to knock him down to the ground, and then captured him and locked him in that secluded cave. Then naturally it would be the long 4,000 years after that. They had never seen each other again. Dong Qitian had always thought that the fellow must at least be a Lord Saint with such a high cultivation base, and not a low-level one at that. He must be famous in the bound of universe. Dong Qitian had never heard of this name, probably because he was ill-informed. After all, he was only a Lord Saint back then, so it was not surprising that he did not know about the world's top powerhouses. However, when he asked the 4 rulers, it was strange that none of them had heard of this person. What does this person look like? Perhaps the name you know is just an alias? Shiman Fafu asked, intrigued. This person's appearance. Dong Qitian was about to continue when he was stunned. He scratched his head and said in distress, "Not tall, not short. Not handsome, not ugly. Not fat, not thin. Not fair, not dark. His age. Not too old, not too young?" After a few words he stopped abruptly. He realized in shock that he had no more impression of that person. That was all he could remember. But the words he described were extremely vague. If that was the case, he might as well not say it at all. The 4 rulers, however, looked grim. "You're saying that you can't remember that person's appearance?" "Yes. Your cultivation base was already at the 4th level of Holy Venerate then?" "That's right. With the cultivation of a 4th grade Saint Venerable, how could he not remember a person's appearance? Especially someone as unforgettable as this." Dong Qitian's expression darkened for a moment. "What do you mean? Why are you telling me everything when you bully others with your higher cultivation base? I've already told you everything that happened 4,000 years ago. What's so strange about not remembering it?" However, looking at Dongfang Haoren and the other 3 rulers' expressions, it did not look like they were playing a prank. Dongfang Haoren said, "Elder Dong, do you still remember when he drank with you twice? Did he say anything special?" "I think he only said a few strange things." Dong Qitian hung his head dejectedly. Sigh, he could not even defeat one of the 4 in front of him. Even if he was being teased, he could only endure it. He had grown used to Yin Yang's fear recently. "What did he say?" the 4 of them asked in unison. Dong Qitian finally felt that something was amiss. These 4 seemed to be too concerned about what had happened to him. Mang Jiu said solemnly, "Elder Dong, this old man has to say this solemnly. A person who has imprisoned him for 4,000 years should not only have an unforgettable memory, but also have a vivid impression of him. Not to mention that Elder Dong was already a pinnacle Holy Venerate back then. It's already very unusual that you can't remember what he looks like." Dong Qitian shuddered. Yes, this was indeed unusual. He should have thought of this unusualness a long time ago. He was not a fool. He did not need anyone's reminder to understand this. However, why had he taken it for granted all these years? Why had he been so used to it? He had always thought that it was normal to forget. This was the biggest anomaly. Beads of sweat the size of soybeans rolled down Dong Qitian's face as he thought about it. His heart was pounding. "He asked me to drink twice then. I only remember that we had a good time together, but I really can't remember what he said specifically." Dong Qitian felt that he was becoming more and more abnormal. He tugged at his hair and tried hard to recall. Finally, his eyes lit up as he said, he liked the word Qitian in my name, so it's a pity that he died." Dong Qitian dug through his memories, only to realize that he only remembered 2 sentences. He could not help but feel even more conflicted. However, Dongfang Haoren and the other 3 suddenly shuddered when they heard the 2 sentences, their expressions changing drastically. "What's wrong? The 4 of you?" Dong Qitian immediately felt that something was amiss. "You've been imprisoned for 4,300 years. Dongfang Haoren was speechless for a moment. After a while, he said with an indescribable tone of shock, "You've been imprisoned for 4,300 years, and only recently escaped. You must not know that 4,900 years ago, the demon clan had a war with us humans?" The incident at the Soul Demon Clan that day was, to a considerable extent, facilitated by the demon clan, intending to cause chaos among the human race. Although it was destroyed by the aid of you, it had caused great losses, especially the loss of holy venerables. In the subsequent battle for the ownership of the Blood Soul Altar, both sides agreed to send 20 experts below the Holy Lord level to fight to the death at the Blood Soul Altar. The winner could occupy the Blood Soul Altar. In that battle, the human side lost. None of the 24th grade Holy Venerables survived, all buried in the Blood Soul Mountain. On the demon clan's side, among the 20 demon marshals, there was one who still had half a breath left. His demon soul had clearly been obliterated, but he held on until the end of the battle. His last breath did not die, and he won the battle. The Blood Soul Altar was renamed the Demon Soul Altar, and until today, it is still in the hands of the demon clan. And you, Dong Qitian, Jade Sword Supremacy, and the other 7 were among the 20 people who were scheduled to fight at that time. However, Lei Qianli, who belonged to the Sacred Heart Palace, said that his vitality was greatly damaged in the battle at the Soul Demon Clan, and was unable to fight again. And your whereabouts were suddenly unknown, and you had to find someone else to replace you. This is also the fundamental reason why I can remember you. Dongfang Haoren's eyes were bright, with a kind of incredulous surprise. You just said that person said, it would be a pity if you died. Dong Qitian was dumbstruck. There was such a thing. F***ck, so I'm remembered because I didn't participate in the battle. Mother F***ker. Isn't I the one who chickened out in front of these people? All these years, we've always wanted to use the same method to reclaim the Blood Soul Altar. But we've fought more than 40 battles every 100 years, and we've never won. That's why more than 800 peak 4th grade Holy Venerables died in the Blood Soul Altar. Dongfang Haoren heaved a long sigh and said, "Previously, when Supreme Cloud went to the East Celestial Palace, he accidentally mentioned it when we were chatting. He asked why the number of peak 4th grade Holy Venerables was less than the number of 1st grade Holy Venerables. This is the reason. How many of our brothers fought knowing that they would die? What about the Demon Clan? Is the Demon Clan really so powerful that they won no one in more than 40 battles?" Dong Qitian clenched his fists. "The Demon Clan's losses in this battle are no less than ours. It's just that the Demon Clan does have a unique advantage in this aspect. They have a lot of lives. For example, the 9 Lives Cat. Facing such a Demon Clan, you need to kill them at least 9 times before you can destroy them from this world. This is not a legend, but an inevitable fact when one's demon technique has been cultivated to a certain level." Dongfang Haoren sighed. "In terms of individual combat strength, each of our men who fought were extraordinary and had the upper hand in the battle. However, they couldn't withstand the enemy's endless demon transformation technique, always managing to stay alive at the moment of death. As for our men, once they die, they're really dead. After experiencing the lessons of multiple failures, our men are prepared to fight to the death every time. Once things go south, they'll bet their soul power and perish together with the enemy. Even if they can't win, they'll bring the enemy along with them." Sigh. The 4 juggernauts sighed at the same time. Dong Qitian's thoughts wandered as he said, "The Bound of Universe has never been lacking in heroic heroes." Yes, heroes. But it's a pity. Most heroes use their own lives in exchange for this title. They can only enjoy this title after they die, and the people that heroes use their lives to protect are usually a group of people who don't have any heroic spirit and don't even know how to be grateful. Beigong Liuli seemed like she wanted to complain, but she stopped halfway through her sentence. Python 9, on the other hand, laughed coldly. "What about those brats who specialize in harming the descendants of heroes?" The moment Python 9 said that, the 3 palace lords flushed red to their ears, speechless for a moment. Only Python 9 laughed coldly. "You humans have a very good saying. Comparing people to each other will kill you, and comparing goods to goods you'll throw them away. In our Tian Fa Holy Land, how are the descendants of heroes treated? They're at least 100 times stronger than you guys. Our Tian Fa's descendants will naturally nurture those with extraordinary aptitudes. However, if there are any descendants of heroes among them, other than nurturing them, the others will take a step back on their own accord even if their aptitudes are slightly better. They will willingly serve as assistants in order to allow the descendants of heroes to enjoy honor and glory. That's why for the past 17,000 years, the beast kings of Tian Fa are all descendants of heroes. The prodigies of Tian Fa, who have never shed blood or lost their lives, are not qualified to be the beast kings. Python 9 said slowly, "When I was young, I've also taken on a human form and roamed the world. In fact, there are many Xian beast seniors who have also taken on a human form and roamed the bound of universe. However, after experiencing all kinds of things in the world, as long as they're still alive, they'll choose to return to the Tian Fa Holy Land to retire. Even at the last moment of their lives, they'd rather use forbidden techniques to prolong their lives and wait for the final battle with the demon clan." Do you know what everyone's common sense is? Python 9 laughed mockingly. Everyone who has taken on a human form and roamed the world has a similar experience. For the first 10 years, they're willing to risk their lives for their friends. For the next 10 years, they're willing to give up all their possessions for their friends. Only their lives are not something they're willing to give up. For the next 10 years, they're willing to pay some price, but they're not willing to affect their own lives and survival for the sake of their friendship. Another 10 years, they're even more indifferent to watching the clouds roll by, watching life and death coldly from the sidelines. In the last 10 years, they've seen the world of mortals. They're disheartened and bored. Only by returning to the Tian Fa Holy Land would they be able to regain a shred of peace. Even though they still have many years left, they're not willing to go out again. Shiman Famfu's face sank. Python 9 continued. Over time, our Tian Fa Holy Land named this experience as the 50 Years of Mortals. Even today, the Tian Fa Holy Land has brewed many wines with this name. Yes, it's a set of 5 pots of wine. It takes 10 years to brew 5 pots for a week, but it's unbearable to drink and reminisce about. Python 9's eyes were filled with mockery before he burst out laughing. In spite of this, none of the 3 palace lords, including Ji Lingxi, Shengguan Lingxiu, and Dong Qitian, laughed. On the contrary, everyone's expression was somber, even a little ashamed. What Python 9 said might not be everything in the world, but it was at least the most common phenomenon. The human heart was treacherous and unpredictable. This was an unchanging truth. Compared to the simple-minded mystical beasts who transformed into human forms and entered the human world, how could they not be discovered after a long period of interaction? Once they discovered it, they would naturally overthink it. It should be known that a Xian beast's entire body was a treasure to a human. Consuming its flesh could boost one's cultivation base, greatly increasing one's ability. Consuming its inner core would boost one's foundation, bringing many benefits. Not to mention, its fur could be made into armor, its bones could be refined into weapons. If one could tame a living one, not only would it be a powerful combat force, it could also be a weapon to show off. The mystical beasts had encountered this many times. Other than resentment, there was also a sense of understanding. Python 9 sighed. The great ancestor left a strict order for us not to be sentimental about the human world. What a wise decision, truly insightful. To the simple-minded mystical beasts, entering the human world to train is a process of sharpening one's will and widening one's knowledge. It's a good thing to see the evil of the human heart and the unpredictable martial world. Ji Lingxi mused. That's right. The topic felt like a mountain was pressing down on everyone's hearts, so heavy that they did not want to speak anymore. Dong Qitian said in a daze. About me. Dong Fenghaoren chuckled bitterly. About you? Haven't you already told me your story? Dong Qitian was speechless. We have nothing to say about this, and we dare not say it, Shiman Fafa said bluntly. Shiman Fafa said bluntly. Even though we seem to be high above the masses and can see through a normal person's past and present with just a glance, we still can't see the future of a practitioner above the holy venerable level. Cultivators above the level of supreme saint. It's obvious that they can't even see through saint kings and saint emperors. Baigong Liuli chuckled bitterly. But that person obviously saw what would happen decades, or even millennia later. That's why you've escaped. When you came out again, you were already a Saint Lord cultivator. And you met Yin Yang, the Golden Age. Once again, you encountered a great battle. And it was a decisive battle, the final battle. Dongfang Haoren smiled bitterly as well. How dare we guess a plot set up by such a person? How dare we ask? What if? The three rulers paled at the same time. Dong Qitian, on the other hand, was even more confused. So this Jun Buxi, other than imprisoning me, he's actually never existed in the martial world, right? The three palace lords chuckled bitterly at the same time. This question, what kind of existence was it? Even if it existed, as long as it didn't want you to know, then you would never know. But why do I feel that he's very famous in the martial world? In short, it's like he's very impressive? Dong Qitian was utterly confused. Am I too blind? Python 9 smiled faintly. Don't ask for more. A person like that, let alone giving you a vague feeling, even if he made you feel like you've had an affair with your wife for 18 lifetimes, you'd believe it without a doubt. Dong Qitian's face flushed as he glared at Python 9, hissing through gritted teeth. Python 9. He had actually called out the four rulers' names right in front of their faces. It was obvious how angry Python 9's words were. Python 9 coughed dryly and said, I'm just making an example. Please don't take it to heart, Elder Dong. Dong Qitian huffed and puffed. His fists clenched tightly as he glared at Python 9, wanting very much to punch him. Dongfang Haoren and the others laughed. Although Python 9 spoke like a human, he was still a mystical beast at the core of his being. He could not be like a human when it came to the details of the human world. Dong Qitian was on the verge of exploding with that one sentence. Let's see what this old man would do. Seeing that Dong Qitian was still fuming, Python 9 paused, looking slightly lost. He coughed dryly and said softly, The human heart is treacherous and full of thoughts. What I said must be unforgivable and heinous to you. Fine, since I've said the wrong thing, I'll let you punch me. I won't circulate my energy to defend myself. As he spoke, he took a step forward. Boom. Dong Qitian did not hold back, landing a heavy punch on Python 9's face. Python 9 kept his word, and did not circulate his chi to defend himself. Dong Qitian's punch sent him flying more than 30 feet away. He bared his teeth. What a heavy punch. Dong Qitian was suddenly deflated as he vented the force of his punch. Naturally, he could see that Python 9 was giving him face. With Python 9's saint-level cultivation base, even if he did not circulate his energy to defend himself, Dong Qitian would not have been able to move him. Python 9's act of being sent flying by Dong Qitian could be said to be demeaning himself. It was a great show of apology. But what he said just now, why did it seem like he was implying that I was narrow-minded? Forget it. When I reach saint-level cultivation base in the future, I'll go and spar with Senior Python 9. Dong Qitian said nothing more. Admiration flashed in the eyes of Dongfang Haoren and the others. Facing Python 9, a Lord Saint actually dared to attack with all his might, and even spat out such harsh words after Python 9 apologized. This fellow was very arrogant. Python 9 guffawed. There aren't many humans who are as bold as you. I'll wait for you. The impact of the punch was huge. It was not just Dongfang Haoren and the others, but even Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu felt that the punch was manly enough. Daughter-in-law is going on a trip with mother-in-law tomorrow. My freedom is coming. GT. Chapter 14:13. Shengguan Lingxiu's eyes darted around as she asked, Elder Dong, are your original family members still around? They're long gone. Dong Qitian sighed. Shengguan Lingxiu replied, Oh, in that case, I have a suitable candidate here. Elder Dong, what do you think of Ping Zhanyue? Are they worthy of your discerning eyes? Dong Qitian spat out a mouthful of blood. For a moment, he was dumbfounded and tongue-tied, speechless for a long time. Dong Qitian almost ran away from Shengguan Lingxiu's words. It was only because he was worried about Yin Yang that he dared not leave. Otherwise, he would have run off to God knows where. He curled up in a corner, not daring to make a sound. Why is she trying to find me a wife with just a few words? What the hell is this? Come to think of it, Ping Zhanyue isn't too bad. She's already a saint now, so it's not too much of a disgrace. The spiritual qi storm continued under the Palace of Nine Supreme's celestial luck banner that had evolved into a golden luster. Yin Yang, the tiny residence of Nine Supremes, the purple jade flute, and Emmy's divine edge continued to absorb the spiritual qi. Meanwhile, Gigi, who knew that it had caused trouble and could only hide in the main hall, was also swallowing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth without restraint. Dongfang Haoren revealed an expression of relief. Brothers, it looks like we can relax a little. Shiman Fafa smiled and said, after the series of changes, not only has the Holy Lord's combat strength been greatly damaged, even our Dao hearts have been damaged, and our strength has inevitably been greatly reduced. However, with the addition of a new force like the Residence of Nine Supremes, the battle against the demons may not be a sure win, but at least it won't be as difficult as we imagined. The heavenly Dao is still on our side. Beigong Liuli sighed softly and said, the addition of Yin Yang alone will greatly increase our luck. Perhaps we can wipe out the demonic plague with this battle. Meng Jiu chimed in coldly. Wiping out the demon race is not an easy task. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. In the Bound of Universe, there were humans, demons, and mystical beasts. The combined combat power of the demon race was the strongest, but because of the human race's talents and the mystical beast's assistance, they had been able to compete for tens of thousands of years. If the demon race was truly wiped out and the tripartite balance of the three races was gone, the humans would probably shift their focus to the mystical beasts. In the end, there might only be one race left in the world, and in the end, even this race would not survive. This was the foresight of the three races. It wasn't that Beigong Liuli didn't know this, but in the countless wars between the two races, the humans had always been the weaker side. It was rare for them to have the chance to turn the tables on the demons. That was why she blurted out the words of exterminating the demons. Dongfang Haoren laughed. We'll discuss this matter later. His laughter was particularly joyous. In the past, we discussed more about how to defend, how to stabilize, and how to protect the border between humans and demons. But now we are discussing whether there is a possibility of exterminating the demon race. Regardless of whether we succeed in the end, it is still a great improvement. When the four sovereigns heard this, they all smiled. This was indeed a huge improvement. Dongfang Haoren looked at Python 9 and said, Python 9, you fought with the Dragon Emperor and Phoenix Emperor. What do you think of them? Python 9 snorted and said, which one of us hasn't fought them before? Why are you only asking me? Beigong Liuli said, the Phoenix Monarch and the Dragon Monarch have fought a few times, and their performances have fluctuated between strong and weak. At least in my opinion, it's hard to determine their strength. I even suspect that the two of them have already severed their true selves, Dongfang Haoren said with a frown. This is also my concern. If it's a life-and-death battle, I'm not confident that I can withstand the Dragon Monarch. Of course, that's the most pessimistic situation. We have to face the enemy on the battlefield in order to determine which stage he has reached. Everything is evaluated with the worst-case scenario in order to ensure our safety. Even if there's an accident, there's still room to maneuver. Shiman Fafa looked in Yin Yang's direction and said faintly, I've fought with the Falcon Monarch in the past. All of you should know about that battle. After I came back that time, I recuperated for 30 years. The battle 3,000 years ago is still fresh in my memory. The Falcon Monarch's cultivation base then was already at the pinnacle of half-saint, half a step away from saint level. However, according to the information Yin Yang sent back, the strongest combat power that the demon race has shown now, including the Phoenix Monarch and Demon Monarch, is only at the level of half-saint. It doesn't look like they're faking it either. It's strange that they're holding back. Judging from the damage Yin Yang has caused to the demon race, and the Phoenix Monarch's determination to kill Yin Yang. He definitely didn't hide his strength. At least, his ability back then was only at the pinnacle of half-saint. But this is impossible, it doesn't make sense. Dongfang Haoren said in a low voice. Shiman Fafa said, I've long suspected that the Dragon Monarch and the Phoenix Monarch might be cultivating a unique cultivation method, a true physical clone, which caused their physical state to be incomplete or even flawed. However, where exactly is their true form? This is a question that needs to be discussed. Speaking of the demon race's strength, the four rulers all looked worried. It was said that with the participation of the residents of 9 Supremes, the human race's chances of winning had increased tremendously, but the demon race's higher-ups were undoubtedly stronger than the bound of universe humans. For so many years, the two races had been at loggerheads with each other. However, the four rulers, including Python 9, were gradually unable to bear the burden. Recently, they had personally experienced the unfilial behavior of their successors. They felt sorry for their former comrades and heroes, and found it increasingly difficult to continue. If not for the appearance of powerful reinforcements, which gave everyone a shot in the arm, perhaps the war between the two races would have ended in mutual destruction. Most of the time, surviving and persevering was the longest torture. After the spiritual chi storm in the Palace of 9 Supremes disappeared, the spiritual chi storm that Yin Yang and the rest had attracted alone lasted for a full day and night, before the variation came to an end. The purple jade flute was the first to finish absorbing the spiritual chi and vanished without a trace. Then, the tiny residence of 9 Supremes vanished without a trace. After that, Emmy seemed to have reached its limit as well, returning to the deific consciousness space without a breath of life left. After another hour, the divine edge finally stopped absorbing and fell back into Yin Yang's hands. It was only then that the torment finally came to an end. The spectators, including Dongfang Haoren, felt waves of exhaustion. It had lasted for too long. Even if one's body was fine, one's heart was tired. Seeing Yin Yang walking down from above, full of energy and vigor, Dongfang Haoren could not help but feel an urge to lash out at him. You're finally done. When Shiman Fafa said this, his tone was tinged with emotion. Yin Yang thanks the four seniors for protecting me. Yin Yang said sincerely. There's no need to protect me. We only asked to disperse the crowd, but this is necessary. Dongfang Haoren's face was dark as he said, everyone has their own secrets and trump cards. Yin Yang, you've used your trump card this time. Although it's a good opportunity to absorb spiritual chi and increase the strength of your trump card, it's still a little unwise. The advantages may not outweigh the disadvantages. How could Yin Yang not know the advantages and disadvantages? He was a little annoyed about it as well. He chuckled bitterly and said, when the spiritual chi storm started, everyone was focused on their own matters. Who would pay attention to anything else? I thought it was fine since the battle was imminent. If I could increase my ability, I'd have a higher chance of winning. I didn't expect that after the spiritual chi storm had ended, these fellows were still absorbing spiritual chi, causing the situation to go out of control. Yin Yang was also helpless about this. He did not expect the situation to change so drastically. Half a month ago, the three of us received news that the demon race has begun to descend into chaos. Dongfang Haoren looked at Yin Yang. However, it was a crucial moment for the Temple of 9 Supremes, so we didn't want to distract you, so... What chaos? Yin Yang asked straightforwardly. The Fox Emperor and the Cat Emperor worked together and killed their way into the former palace of the Nine Lives Cat clan. They retrieved the Nine Lives Cat's immovable soul from a secret place and recovered their peak combat power. The Dragon Emperor was enraged and declared the two sovereigns to be the demon race's traitors and ordered the demon race to capture them. The Fox Emperor and the Cat Emperor worked together and fought their way out. They met up with the army that had been lying in ambush and returned to the territory safely. However, the demon race's war of rebellion erupted. Dongfang Haoren's expression was somber. Now, the Nine Lives Cat clan and the Fox Emperor's clan are trapped in the Fox Emperor's territory by the demon race's army of rebellion suppression. Although this is the old nest of the Fox clan that has been here for countless years and has a strong foundation, the demon race's army is coming in endlessly. The prospect of their safety is not optimistic. Shiman Fanfu sighed. I think that if they didn't have other plans, the Fox Emperor and the Cat Emperor's timing is too early and too hasty. Yun Yang vaguely felt that something was amiss and said with a frown, even if the Cat Emperor is eager for revenge, and is even eager to recover his peak combat power, the Fox Emperor has always been far-sighted and farsighted. Why would he make such an unwise decision so hastily? I'm afraid there's more to this than meets the eye. I think so too, Dongfang Haoran said. Therefore, we need you to contact the Fox Emperor and see if you can contact him. After confirming the current situation, we can wait for an opportunity to act. Me? Yin Yang pointed at his own nose, looking surprised. Me and the Fox Emperor? How? Supreme Cloud, there's no need to pretend. The Fox Emperor's blood jade pendant is the best medium of communication. Dongfang Haoran said faintly, isn't that jade pendant in your hands? The Emperor's jade pendant must contain the Emperor's blood. The Fox Emperor handing the Emperor's blood jade pendant to you was a ploy. But he didn't take it back. He had the intention of long-distance communication. The Emperor's blood jade pendant contains the Fox Emperor's spiritual imprint. Isn't it your method of communication? Dongfang Haoran did not know that if he had not mentioned it, Yun Yang would never have thought that it would be such a secret. Now that he heard it, he was a little dazed. Was there such a thing? Was there really such a thing? Yun Yang took out the Fox Emperor's jade pendant and injected his spiritual energy into it according to Dongfang Haoran's instructions, waiting for the changes. Chapter 14:14. Yun Yang chuckled bitterly. Returning to the bound of universe this time is indeed glorious. But it's hard for me to be free. Big Brother is right. Beside him, Dongfang Haoran, Shiman Fafu, and Beigong Liuli coughed dryly, their pretense of composure gone. The true meaning of Yin Yang's words almost made the three rulers feel ashamed. The Fox Emperor glanced at him and said with a smile, Third brother, you look troubled. Is it because you've been suppressed by the three heavenly palaces? Well, Dongfang and the others are all here, and they look troubled. Even if they didn't instruct you, it must be their sons and disciples who want to kill you. However, with your temper and the way you handle things, I'm sure you've killed some of their sons and disciples, haven't you? Yun Yang was shocked. Big Brother, you're a prophet. It's not entirely accurate, but it's not far from it. What's so special about being able to predict things? The old geezers didn't move, and you didn't die. My royal blood jade pendant also didn't have any reaction. That means that you were scared but not in danger. Since you're fine, then the one who's in trouble is naturally someone else. I don't even need to use my brain. What you said is not entirely accurate, but it's not far from it. Did you show mercy and not kill? This isn't like you. Yin Yang chuckled bitterly and changed the topic. I heard that Big Brother has started to act? The Fox Emperor snorted and said, What do you mean by I've started to act? It's that old bastard Nine Lives cat. He insisted on creating a commotion. What else can I do? Do I have to watch him risk his life alone? I mean, I have to risk my life with a fool. Look at me now. I'm completely passive. I can only drag this on for as long as I can. Before the Fox Emperor had even finished speaking, the idiot Nine Lives cat ancestor's face had already appeared on the screen. His face was filled with embarrassment, and it was clear that he had been mocked quite a bit by the Fox Emperor during this period of time. He was completely at the mercy of the Fox Emperor, and he waved his hands awkwardly. Third brother, you still look like a fox. Yun Yang was exasperated. Leave it to others if you don't know how to speak. What you said makes me want to beat you up. Dongfang Haoran came over and asked, Fox Emperor, what's the situation over there? Is there anything we can help with? Just say it. The Fox Emperor looked deeply at Dongfang Haoran with a faint smile and said, Dongfang, no matter how we fight, it is a matter of the Yao race. It has nothing to do with your human race, so you don't need to worry about it. Dongfang Haoran, don't think that we're allies with you humans just because we rebelled. That's impossible. And if you humans want to take advantage of this matter, don't even think about it. The enemy of my enemy is not necessarily my friend. The Fox Emperor said calmly, even if the demon clan is in a state of chaos right now, if you humans dare to attack at this time, then both sides will immediately turn their weapons around and work together to deal with you. 9 lives and I will most likely charge to the front lines. Who asked us to not fear death? So there's no need to worry, and there's no need to overthink things. The Fox Emperor's words were harsh, causing Dongfang Haoren and the others to shake their heads and sigh. Even though Zhang Xian had expected that the Fox Emperor would say such a thing, he had still harbored some hope in his heart. But at this moment, it was inevitable that he would be disappointed. The human heart was strange, but a demonic heart was as pure as a beast's. It had always been so, and had never changed. Yin Yang said from the side, Big brother, I don't care about your matters, but if it really comes down to it, it's your business and your life if you fight to the death. But you have to send sister-in-law and nephews over to me no matter what. The Fox Emperor and the Feline Emperor's eyes glinted with warmth. Very well. Then, the Fox Emperor cut off the communication unilaterally. Yin Yang looked at the jade pendant for a while, and thought about it before turning his head quietly. The timing of the incident isn't good, but it's still a good thing overall. It's just that there aren't many opportunities for us to take advantage of. Beigong Liuli chuckled. I've already said that there's no hope, but both of them insisted on trying. Dongfang Haoren said, there's no loss in trying this, we can give up completely. Besides, it's not like we didn't gain anything from this exchange. At least we know for sure that the Fox Emperor and the Feline Emperor are really rebelling. It's not a smokescreen. He thought about it and said, if we intervene rashly, the demon race will return to being a united front. If we don't intervene, they can still be chaotic for a period of time. Since that's the case, let's just wait and see. He turned to look at Yin Yang. What are your plans? Are you going to intervene in this as a private matter? Yin Yang was a human, but he was also the sworn brother of the Fox Emperor and the Feline Emperor. He had a close relationship with the two races, so it would be reasonable if he intervened as a private matter. However, with Yin Yang's help, the Fox Emperor and the Feline Emperor's abilities would increase by at least 20%, which would definitely cause more losses in the demon race's internal strife. Yin Yang's gaze flickered as he said, the human heart is treacherous, and it's not just an empty saying. The demon race won't trust any humans during this period of time, and I'm not in the position to intervene. Recuperating and elevating their abilities are the Temple of Nine Supreme's top priority at this stage. This process will take at least 3 years. The 4 rulers exchanged looks and said, very well. We'll definitely fight for 3 years for you. There's one more thing. Shimen Fanfu reminded. The Supreme Heaven Pavilion selection will begin in the 8th month of next year. There's still a whole year from now. Yin Yang, you must attend the selection this time. Yin Yang was silent for a moment before he replied in a low voice. All right. The plan was set. Dongfang Haoren and the others left the Temple of Nine Supremes swiftly. After Dongfang Haoren and the others descended the mountain, they did not stay any longer and returned to their respective palaces. Yin Yang contacted the Fox Emperor once more after Dongfang Haoren and the others had left. Dongfang Haoren and the others already knew what they needed to know. The rest was what they should not know. Dongfang Haoren had left immediately, because he understood this as well. The 4 rulers were doing this for the continuation of mankind. Whether it was to add insult to injury when the demon race was in a state of chaos, it was only right for them to do whatever they could. They left immediately, so that Yin Yang could contact the Fox Emperor quickly and get the real news and valuable clues. As long as they were still around, even if Yin Yang contacted the Fox Emperor again, the latter would not say a word. How could a sovereign soul be so easily deceived? Big brother, what happened on your side? I want to hear the truth. Your brother Cat was indeed rash in this matter. You know, for those of us who travel outside, for the sake of safety, we basically don't bring our soul origin bodies with us. Everyone's foundation is stored in an absolutely secret place, where they are constantly cultivating and nurturing their foundation. And that secret place is something that only we know about. and no matter how good our relationship is, we wouldn't dare to reveal it. Your brother Cat had just escaped not long ago, and was affected by the art of sealing heaven. His ability was greatly reduced. If the Phoenix Emperor hadn't held back, he might not have survived. Since he was determined to counterattack, he naturally needed to fuse as soon as possible, in case someone with ulterior motives attacked his nest. However, although his fusion this time was successful, it was still discovered. The Phoenix Emperor had planted many spies in the former location of the cat race's imperial city. When the Cat Emperor fused, his aura leaked out. The Fox Emperor was extremely helpless about this. Also, most importantly, the fact that your nephew isn't dead has been discovered. Furthermore, rumors have started to spread throughout the demon plane, saying that your nephew has come back to life, and that the heavens did not take his life. This is the true ruler of the demon race. The Demon Emperor is especially wary of this. Therefore, the internal strife of the demon race this time isn't only because of your brother Cat, although in name, the spearhead is all pointed at him. However, the situation is still stable now. The Fox race has been running the Crimson Soul Mountain for a long time. They don't plan to attack the demon race's territory by force, only seeking to protect themselves. They can handle it. After all, there's still a long way to go before the final battle. No matter how enraged the Demon Emperor is, the other sovereigns don't really want to kill us both. It's because of this that we can't turn to the human race. Never. The Fox Emperor was very nonchalant. Yin Yang frowned and changed the topic. Then, do you mean to say that what you've come into contact with me is actually just a clone? Even the one imprisoned by Brother Cat is essentially just an avatar? You can't say that. Every one of us who travels outside has a complete will and a complete body. But, as sovereigns, how can we not have a backup plan? Everyone cherishes their lives. Besides, leaving a backup plan means that we're cultivating at all times and places. It's a double cultivation. However, it's not surprising that you're surprised. When you reach the cultivation base of a saint, you'll naturally understand the mystery behind this. This is a specialty of a saint-level cultivator. The Fox Emperor chuckled and said softly, "The one I'm most troubled about is your nephew. Now he's the most important target of the dragon race and the phoenix race." Yin Yang pondered for a moment and asked, "Are you confident that you can protect him?" The Fox Emperor was silent for a long time. "He's my last resort. If I can't protect him, it'll be the moment I break off all ties with the Demon Emperor's bloodline. If we're all doomed, remember to shatter this jade pendant in your hand when you come to the demon race's base, and scatter the Emperor's blood essence. You'll be able to find the blood of life and a strand of his soul that I've left for my son. I've prepared these just now. No matter how capable others are, they won't be able to find them, but you can," he said softly. "If that day really comes, I'll have to rely on you for everything after this." Yin Yang understood what he meant immediately. If they really could not protect him, the Fox Emperor and the Cat Ancestor would stake it all and launch an all-out counterattack, igniting the demon race's internal strife. If it really came down to a final battle, facing the entire demon race, it was only a matter of time before the Fox Emperor and the Cat Ancestor were defeated. There was no chance of them surviving. There was no doubt that they would die. Therefore, what he said just now was more to entrust the Fox Crown Prince's future to Yin Yang. Yin Yang took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "All right. There's one more thing. I've secretly built a warehouse, a small cave the size of a human head. I've placed 100 spatial rings in it." The Fox Emperor's voice was low and indifferent. "These are what I've prepared for you. If anything really happens and the cat and I die, they're yours. By then my blood will guide you to them." Yin Yang kept quiet for a moment and said in a low voice, "All right." He understood it very well. Those space rings must contain an extremely large amount of resources, enough to shock the entire world. The Fox Emperor had left this as a backup in case he was forced to a dead end. These were the capital that the Fox Emperor had left for the Fox Crown Prince to stage a comeback. If so, there would be no shortage of them. The Fox Emperor had given much thought to his son. However, when the time came, Yin Yang would be the one to obtain them first. As for whether Yun Yang would hand them over to the Fox Crown Prince after he had obtained them, whether he would look for the Fox Crown Prince's soul to revive him, or even how much he would hand over, these were all matters that needed to be discussed. After all, no one could guarantee what Yun Yang would do. The human heart was treacherous. Yun Yang was also human, unfortunately. No matter what guarantee Yun Yang made now, no matter how generous and righteous he sounded, it would still be useless before the reality of the future. It would be nonsense if the Fox Emperor could believe him completely. Everything, including how the resources would be used, was all within Yin Yang's will. It should be Yin Yang's will in the future. The Fox Emperor did not make it clear, and Yin Yang did not make any promises either. Both of them knew that it was useless to say anything at this point in time. Even Yin Yang's current state of mind was hard to predict. Therefore, the Fox Emperor had simply said, "Those are yours. How you use them is your business. You're greedy, but it's given to you by your sworn brother, so it's not considered greedy. If you choose to let your nephew use them, it's because you're loyal to your brother. It has nothing to do with what I'm entrusting to you today. I'm not forcing you with the loyalty of my brother either. Brother, take care," the Fox Emperor said softly. "If there are no accidents, we should be able to hang on for a year." Yin Yang's gaze flashed as he said, "I understand. I thank my brother for your kindness." The Fox Emperor disappeared for the second time. Yin Yang stood up slowly. "1 year," he murmured. The Fox Emperor's words were clear. If there are no accidents, 1 year. What if there were accidents? What can I do in a year's time? The residence of 9 Supremes, or rather, the Palace of 9 Supremes now, had begun its days of torment. The so-called torment was probably what Xiao Wui, Ping Zun, Yu, and Lang Fantian thought to them. In the eyes of the old friends of the residence of 9 Supremes, everything that was happening before their eyes was merely a show of energy. On the first day after the spiritual qi storm ended, the Palace of 9 Supremes was quiet. Everyone was trying their best to adjust the spiritual qi that they had absorbed. It was extremely quiet, without a trace of movement. In spite of this, hundreds of people had already finished adjusting and had come out to train, tormenting themselves as if their lives depended on it, trying to adapt to the sudden surge in their abilities as soon as possible. These hundreds of people were the original members of the Residence of 9 Supremes. After all, the old members of the Residence of 9 Supremes were not new to the situation, so they were relatively more adaptable. In addition, they had their own ways to adjust to the situation. Sparring battles, using the explosive pace of battle to hone in on one's condition, so that one's power could truly match one's own. It was the only way to succeed. On the second day, the situation gradually spread. Basically, everyone was on the move. The area within 10,000 miles of the Palace of 9 Supremes was filled with fighting scenes that were drenched in sweat. The disciples who were sparring and training did not stop for a single moment. Many children were exhausted from training, lying on the ground and twitching, but they still mustered their mystical qi in an attempt to recover as soon as possible, so that they could proceed to the next round of training. There were also people shouting from the side, "Hang in there! Stand up! Hang in there!" I won't say anything else, but if anyone embarrasses the Palace of 9 Supremes when they go out to roam the martial world, you know it. You'll be representing the Palace of 9 Supremes no matter where you go when you go out on your own. Pride is yours, but it's given by others. We roam the world to earn pride for the Palace of 9 Supremes. We mustn't be embarrassed. Pride isn't something you can earn just by lying down like this. Get up. The corners of Xiao Wui, Lang Fantian, and the other newly promoted higher-ups' mouths twitched. They knew that although they had worked extremely hard in their own cultivation, they were far from the Palace of 9 Supremes' disciples. When he was tired, he would rest and adjust his xian qi. After that, he would cultivate his mood. He had to wait until his mood was better before he could cultivate his martial skills. The way of cultivation was about relaxation and tension. More haste, less speed. Why were the Palace of 9 Supremes' disciples training so desperately? It was like pulling up saplings to help them grow. Could they achieve anything in the long run? Will there really be no problem if we continue to train like this? Xiao Wui pulled back Hu Xiaofan, who was supervising the work fiercely. Hu Xiaofan chuckled. Uncle Master Xiao, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth can't be replenished in the secular land. It's rare to have enough spiritual qi to nourish the body all the time. Cultivating blindly will inevitably damage one's foundation. More haste, less speed. However, does the Palace of Nine Supremes need to consider this? Do you think there's any possibility that the spiritual qi can't be replenished? As long as one doesn't die from cultivating, he can come back to life no matter what. I trained this way back then, so I think my foundation is solid. These kids are luckier than I am. And the spiritual qi now is even better than when they were in the residence of Nine Supremes. How can there be any accidents? He left after he finished, continuing to supervise the work. Xiao Wui and Lang Fantian blushed. They had actually been taught a lesson by a junior? However, what he said made sense. The spiritual qi in the Palace of Nine Supremes was so thick that spiritual qi could be liquefied almost everywhere. Spiritual energy circulated as one breathed in and out. Under such an atmosphere, as long as one did not die, any injury could be healed swiftly. The so-called hidden injuries of the physical body did not exist at all. Sigh. This was bullying others with the sex advantage. There was nothing more to say. There's a reason why the residence of Nine Supremes could rise to where it is now. Xiao Wui sighed. What's the use of lamenting about it? We're part of the Palace of Nine Supremes now. We should work harder. Otherwise, we won't have any dignity left if these kids catch up to us. It'll be so embarrassing. Lang Fantian nodded in agreement. By the 5th day, dozens of disciples had reached a bottleneck in their cultivation base. They bade farewell to the school and left to train in the martial world. The next day, hundreds more disciples stepped out of the school. By the 10th day, the residence of Nine Supremes had sent out 12,000 disciples. By the evening of the 11th day, the last batch of 3,000 disciples had been sent out. They've all been sent out. Xiao Wui mused. How is the Palace of Nine Supremes training disciples? It's like rearing eagles. Another day later, Majordomo Qian, who rarely left the residence of Nine Supremes, led the business disciples down the mountain in a grand fashion to reorganize the residence of Nine Supremes' trade routes. Ji Lingxi watched Qian Duoduo leave with a deep frown, deep in thought. Beside her, Gu Chaoyang watched the departing silhouette and said softly, Madam, Majordomo Qian's departure this time. Without the help of a benefactor, he'll definitely die. Ji Lingxi turned abruptly. Huh? What do you mean? Gu Chaoyang had reunited with Ji Lingxi not long after he arrived in the Bound of Universe, and helped her build the residence of Nine Supremes. He had been dormant for a long time, so few people knew about the title of Heaven Teller. Even Yun Yang had almost forgotten about it. This elder brother's greatest skill was to predict a person's fortune and misfortune within 100 years. If it were not for this skill, how could he have written all the rankings in the Bound of Universe without being questioned? To Majordomo Qian, all 4 directions are dead ends. Gu Chaoyang sighed. With a frown, Ji Lingxi said, Calculate again. Gu Chaoyang calculated with his fingers for a moment and said in surprise, It's a close call. Am I making a fuss? As he spoke, he wore a funny smile. Ji Lingxi smiled and turned into a cloud, chasing after Qian Duoduo. When she asked Gu Chaoyang to calculate again, she was already thinking of rushing to escort Qian Duoduo. When Gu Chaoyang calculated again, it turned from a dead end to a close call, turning misfortune into a blessing. It was just a thought. A single variable was already a world of difference, a reversal of life and death. 15,000 disciples were sent out at once, leaving the residence of Nine Supremes with less than 3,000 disciples. Among the Demiurge flawed 10, other than Kong Luoyue who was on duty, the other 9 had gone to the martial world a step earlier than the other disciples. Yun Xiuxin and the other disciples who had left the earliest were long gone, probably tens of thousands of miles away by now. As the Palace of Nine Supremes disciples ventured into the world, the Bound of Universe's martial world was plunged into chaos. All sorts of challenges, sparring, and confrontations came one after another. The unluckiest ones were none other than the crooked sects and their disciples with a bad reputation. Countless people with evil intentions met with disaster as well. This time, the residents of 9 Supremes had almost turned out in full force. These people were, of course, the first unlucky ones to bear the brunt. Starting from the periphery of the residence of 9 Supremes, the disciples stretched out in a radial pattern. It was an unstoppable and unreasonable push. After some sects had been flattened, a few batches of the palace of 9 Supremes disciples had descended on the front lines to finish them off. The saying of first come, first served was undeniable here. Those who were fast would get what they wanted, but those who were slow did not know that there were already those who were fast in front of them. Just like that, even if there were any fish that had slipped through the net, they were all caught clean, over and over again. In the process of the palace of 9 Supremes disciples' baptism in the martial world, the most unlucky one was the Qian family. Every disciple of the residents of 9 Supremes knew that the Qian family was the great enemy of Majordomo Qian Duo. There was a blood feud between the two, and it was difficult for them to coexist. Majordomo Qian had been persecuted by this Qian family, which was why he had founded the residence of 9 Supremes with his master, the sect leader. They had to avenge Uncle Master Qian. As a result, wherever the palace of 9 Supremes disciples ran into the Qian family's businesses, trade routes, shops, and merchants, none of them were spared. Moreover, they were repeatedly harassed again and again. The palace of 9 Supremes had merged the original strength of the General Commerce League, and its power had expanded again. It had set up shop in every city it passed, and used every means possible to occupy the Qian family's living space. It was almost not a case of losing 800 men and injuring 1,000 of the enemy, but 3,000 men and 800 of the enemy. You have a saint emperor in this city? All right, let's send a supreme saint to crush them. What? This city is bigger and has a population of tens of millions, and the Qian family has set up 2 supreme saints here? All right, let's send a supreme saint from the residence of 9 Supremes to crush them. What? You want to reason with us? Reason my ass. We're doing business seriously. What's the point of talking to you about logic? Why? Do you want to fight? Good. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. In just a month and a half, the Qian family had been defeated in half of the continent. The 3,000 men of the palace of 9 Supremes were fine, but the 800 men of the Qian family had been seriously injured. Urgent letters from all over the country flew to the headquarters like snowflakes. Every letter had the same meaning. I can't hold on any longer. The Qian clan was badly battered, and at a loss of what to do. The palace of 9 Supremes followed a principle. We only occupied the market. We would never be the first to kill, let alone injure. In spite of this, the palace of 9 Supremes business model was built on the foundation of disregarding costs. It forcefully intervened in the local business, using the price war as the vanguard. In addition, the palace of 9 Supremes had already won the hearts of the people. Their products were of high quality and low price, so there was no need to worry about sales. Every shop of the Qian family was deserted. Naturally, they would follow the General Commerce League's footsteps. In the later stages of the price war, public opinion was rife. The Qian family, an old merchant family, intended to dominate the bound of universe's business, to expel the palace of 9 Supremes from the business world, and to suppress all of Lord Supreme Cloud's businesses. It was obvious that they were targeting the continent's heroes for a moment. The people were seething with resentment. If it were any other force, the Qian family would only need to retaliate by waging a similar war of public opinion and using some other tactics. However, against the palace of 9 Supremes, they were at their wits' end. The palace of 9 Supremes had an advantage that their previous opponents did not have: the public's will, the people's foundation, and the people's hearts. Secondly, the palace of 9 Supremes was a rising star. With Supreme Cloud's reputation, it naturally gave the people a sense of closeness and belonging. As for the Qian family, they had dominated the world's business for tens of thousands of years. No matter how friendly they were, their hands had long been stained with blood. In this world, there were many who had grudges against the Qian family, and there were countless merchants who had gone bankrupt because of the Qian family. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the people's resentment had completely erupted. The people and martial artists of the Bound of Universe had the same attitude towards this matter. The King Qian family had earned our money for tens of thousands of years. You've long been number one in the world, yet you're still trying to bully the Bound of Universe's heroes. We won't believe it no matter what you say. It's wrong of you to suppress Lord Supreme Cloud, but it's wrong of you to target the Palace of Nine Supremes. Do you believe that the Qian family has suffered a loss and been suppressed by the Palace of Nine Supremes? Whoever believes it is an idiot. It's been so many years, who doesn't know what the Qian family is like? Isn't that right? How can the Qian family be bullied? They're obviously anxious because they can't earn our money. Shameless Qian family. They're too shameless. This is insane. It's infuriating. Even if they've been bullied by the Palace of Nine Supremes and suffered a little loss, so what? Isn't that what they should do? The Palace of Nine Supremes, Lord Supreme Cloud has shed his blood and risked his life for the Bound of Universe. Can't you just take it as a tribute to the continent? You're right. Compared to a certain family that doesn't know how to be grateful, we're more willing to let the Palace of Nine Supremes earn our money. At least, Lord Supreme Cloud has truly protected us. If it wasn't for the Qian family, would I have been so poor? Now the Qian family is being bullied? Well done. The Palace of Nine Supremes' influence grew stronger and stronger, crossing the border like a rolling snowball, crushing everything in its path. The Qian family was a large family. Although they would not be hurt in the short term, it would be hard to say in the long run. However, the Qian family had tens of thousands of years of history. No one could say for sure who would win this battle. The Qian family's higher-ups made a swift decision. Drag it out with them. Wage a price war. Let's see who can outlast the other. The Qian family has hundreds of thousands of years of history. I don't believe we can't beat the Palace of Nine Supremes, a newly established sect that has only been around for a few years. The Qian family had absolute confidence in their wealth and heritage, the world's #1 financial magnate. The weight of these 6 words was not something that ordinary people dared to dream of. If the Palace of Nine Supremes wanted to fight, they would fight with them to the end. Let's see who would be the first to go bankrupt. The Qian family had used this tactic to defeat countless opponents over the years. How could the Palace of Nine Supremes be an exception? The Qian family was preparing enthusiastically, waiting to see the day when the Palace of Nine Supremes could no longer hold on. Therefore, within the boundaries of the entire Bound of Universe, the forces from both sides began a vigorous commercial war. It was like a raging fire that was about to erupt. At the same time, Qian Duoduo and his entourage were plagued with mishaps. No matter where they went, there were always groups of assassins coming to kill them. Moreover, they could not catch any of them alive. All the assassins were men of sacrifice, committing suicide without hesitation once they saw that something was amiss. Occasionally, their identities were found, but they had nothing to do with the Qian family. They belonged to various assassin organizations. Moreover, the combat strength of the assassins was getting higher and higher. Everyone knew that the Qian family must have hired the assassins, but they could not find any incriminating evidence at all. After a few days, many of Qian Duoduo's guards had been injured. Fortunately, Lin Xiaoro and Bai Yexing, 2 of the top 10 disciples of the Residence of Nine Supremes, arrived at this time and joined the guard team, temporarily stabilizing the situation. However, the enemy's attack did not stop because of the arrival of Lin Xiaoro and Bai Yexing. Instead, it grew fiercer and fiercer. Although Jilingxi had been following them secretly, she did not make a move. Given the current situation, there was no need for her to do anything. She wanted to see how much trouble the enemy could stir up. Of course, Jilingxi did not do nothing. Orders were sent out in the midst of countless assassinations, exposing the assassin organizations they belonged to. Therefore, they became the targets of the Palace of Nine Supremes' traveling disciples. The Palace of Nine Supremes' purpose was obvious. Did you not accept the commission to kill my people? No problem. as long as you have the ability to withstand the Palace of Nine Supremes' counterattack. The momentum grew stronger and stronger. Inside the Qian family, Qian Xingjin was so anxious that his lips were blistering. I think this should stop. It's no longer a matter of killing Qian Duoduo. It's a matter of the continuation of the family. Whether we can kill Qian Duoduo now or not, it won't make a difference. It will only cause the Palace of Nine Supremes to retaliate. It was Qian Xingjin who had decided to eliminate Qian Duoduo. But now that he had come out of the Palace of Nine Supremes and learned more about the palace's terrifying power, the idea had completely disappeared. What replaced it was how to please the Palace of Nine Supremes and how to keep the family alive. However, the Council of Elders formed by the Qian family's old ancestors did not agree with this. Qian Duoduo is the root of our opposition. As long as Qian Duoduo is dead, all the problems will be solved. The reason the Palace of Nine Supremes is fighting with us is because of Qian Duoduo. As long as Qian Duoduo is dead, no one will be willing to pay such a high price for a dead man. What we have to do is to continue dragging it out and wear it out until the Palace of Nine Supremes is penniless. At the same time, we can send someone to kill Qian Duoduo. This is the fundamental solution to the problem. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the brave one wins. Tens of thousands of years of confidence had made the Qian family look down on everyone. How could they admit defeat without witnessing the terror of the Palace of Nine Supremes with their own eyes? The Qian family's belief of invincibility would not crumble so easily. Qian Xingjin was so anxious that he was about to fall ill. He argued with reason, but the Council of Elders did not change its decision. Even when Qian Xingjin used his authority as the family leader, it was still rejected. Countless higher-ups of the Qian family were extremely dissatisfied with this family leader. How could such a weak patriarch lead the entire family down the road? Don't worry, family leader. The wealth that the Qian family has accumulated for 100,000 years is the best in the bound of universe. Even if we hurt others with our wealth and squander, without considering the cost and consequences, it will take at least a few hundred years to exhaust all of it. No force in the bound of universe can withstand it. I'm afraid even the 4 heavenly palaces can't compete with us in terms of wealth, let alone the residents of Nine Supremes, a newly established sect. But if we take a step back, we'll be defeated. We'll be defeated like a landslide. That's the real end. The market is the lifeline of the Qian family. We must guard it. Even if both sides suffer, there's still room for us to make a comeback. Qian Xingjin was filled with melancholy. You're right. How can I not know that our wealth is so deep that we can exhaust any force in this world? But the Palace of Nine Supremes is very different. It's unfathomable. The Li family and the Situ family have already said that they can't fight back. Can the Qian family really fight back? On the other side, Qian Duoduo completely ignored the life-threatening crisis he was in, pushing the price war nonstop to seize the market. On the other hand, he spent large sums of money to create public opinion. Qian Duoduo was also very confident about this battle. Although the Qian family was known as a 10,000-year-old family and a financial magnate, it depended on who it was compared to. Qian Duoduo had carefully calculated the resources Yin Yang had given him when he came back from the demon clan. He confirmed that with his current spending pattern, he might not be able to finish spending it even if he spent another 1,000 years. Moreover, he had many backup plans. The people's hearts were all in his favor. There was no reason for him to fail this battle. If the stalemate continued for a while and further depleted the Qian family's financial resources, he only needed to release a batch of weapons that the Palace of Nine Supremes had eliminated and cooperate with the Li family, a family of weaponsmiths. This alone could make the Qian family miserable. If he still could not deal with the Qian family, he would release a batch of medicinal pills and deal another heavy blow. This battle was imperative, and they were bound to win. As long as they won, the Palace of Nine Supremes could monopolize 70% of the entire commercial market. Even if there were any losses, they could make up for it. This is a battle of forces. We'll fight to the end. There's no turning back. Qian Duoduo's position was clear. His original intention of starting this battle was not for revenge. It was just a normal commercial war. It was the same no matter who he fought with. However, they had to fight this battle, and they had to win it. A commercial war was just a commercial war. In a commercial competition, each person had their own unique tactics, nothing else. This was the rule of the Palace of Nine Supremes. However, for a few months, the Qian family's headquarters had been fighting a commercial war obediently, but they had hired countless assassins in the dark. It was truly infuriating, from the Qian family's perspective. As long as there was no solid evidence, the Palace of Nine Supremes could do nothing, no matter how powerful it was. It was only the assassin organizations that were unlucky. The truth was as such. Countless assassin organizations that worked as cashiers had been unlucky because of the battle between these two families. It was just a very ordinary job of collecting money, but it had caused them a lot of trouble, and there was even a follow-up hunt. More and more assassin organizations were complaining and wailing. The assassin organizations were found by the Qian family from bottom to top, and then the residents of Nine Supremes followed the trail. In just 2 months, 7 assassin organizations that had been notorious in the Bound of Universe for a long time had disappeared from the continent. The manpower of the residents of Nine Supremes, the General Commerce League, and the manpower of the Phoenix Cry sect had formed a huge net in the entire Bound of Universe. Once an assassin made his move, there was no way he could escape. Unless he could not catch him alive, as long as he was caught alive, he could pry his mouth open and ask for the name of the organization he belonged to. Once the organization's name was revealed, it meant the arrival of destruction. No matter how well those organizations hid, they would only end up being found out. As long as their tails were caught, the entire organization could not escape the fate of destruction. What was worse was that assassin organizations were a legitimate business in the Bound of Universe. When there was business, as long as the buyer could afford the price, they would naturally make their move. Unfortunately, the Qian family was too rich. No matter how high the price was, it could not stop their desire to buy assassins. Your price is too high. Fine, I'll double the price you raised. I just want to see Qian Duo dead. Then, Qian Duo would basically calculate the current income and expenditure every few days to confirm the profit and loss. He had written for a day more than 10,000 words. He really did not want to divide it into chapters, so he wanted to post it together after he was done. He did not expect that his head would explode until now. This chapter has 10,000 words. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.